Chapter 398. He recalled the time when he had consumed the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar.
He didn't even have the time to carefully feel the sweet and fragrant osmanthus fragrance in the silver stamen gold luster nectar.
He felt as if a bolt of lightning had exploded in his abdomen. An intense pain spread from his abdomen to his internal organs.
Finally, the intense pain was transmitted from his organs to his limbs as if it was going to tear his body into pieces inch by inch.
Although using the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to cleanse his body of impurities, it was equivalent to his entire body being reborn. However, the pain they had to experience during this process was 100 times more torturous than death. Now his master, the Moon Empress, had said that cleansing the soul's impurities wasn't as easy as cleansing the body's impurities. He knew that after he drank the suzerain lotus root powder and the nectar made from the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia osmanthus, he would not be able to drink it. It would be an unbearable torture. He had no understanding of the soul, so what would it look like after washing away the impurities on the soul? Lin Yuan could not help but look forward to it. The Moon Empress instructed Xueqi, who was holding a bowl of assorted lotus root starch. Bring this bowl of lotus root starch to Xiao Yuan first, and then fill the hot spring with water. Xueqi responded before bowing and retreating from the rear hall. She was busy helping Lin Yuan clean up and set up the hot spring in the pavilion. The Moon Empress told him some secrets about the Divine Wood Federation for a while. After a while, seeing that it was almost time, he walked out of the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace and headed toward the pavilion where he usually lived. There were all sorts of rare fays outside the Radiant Moon Palace. These fays seemed to have been released into the wild as they ran all over the Leaning Moon Mountain. Right now, there were plenty of precious fays playing outside the Radiant Moon Palace.
However, he was not in the mood to look at the surrounding scenery as usual.
Instead, he covered his stomach with his hand.
He was preparing himself for another round of sweet torture.
When Lin Yuan walked to the door of his pavilion in the Radiant Moon Palace, he happened to see a squirrel fay holding a nut that was half the size of its body and constantly knocking it. However, after knocking for a long time, the squirrel fay still couldn't crack the shell of the nut. At that moment, Lin Yuan's line of sight met with the squirrel fay's. When Lin Yuan saw this squirrel fay, he immediately recognized it as a healing-type fay, the pine needle spring return mouse. Those giant nuts were the pine nuts of the gold fay, iron pine, that was planted on the Leaning Moon Mountain. This pine needle spring return rat was only a silver fay, so it obviously couldn't open the pine nuts of this gold iron pine. The pine needle spring return rat was extremely intelligent and had high intelligence among rodent fays. When the pine needle spring return rat saw Lin Yuan rubbing his stomach, it looked down at the huge iron pine nuts in its hand. The pine needle spring rejuvenation mouse held the pine nuts of the iron pine and rubbed them on its fluffy big tail with reluctance. Then, he looked at Lin Yuan's hand that was covering his stomach and carried the huge pine nut to Lin Yuan's feet before lifting it up.
It was as if he was saying, "I'm looking at you rubbing your stomach.
You seem to be very hungry. I'll let you eat this big baby." Lin Yuan squatted down and took the pine nuts from the pine needle spring return rat. Lin Yuan had clearly seen the pine needle spring return rat's small movements. This little fellow obviously wanted to eat it, but when it saw him rubbing his stomach, it shared the pine nuts with him. Lin Yuan understood that a large part of the reason for this situation was that there was a lot of food on the Leaning Moon Mountain. However, he had to admit that the pine needle spring return rat warmed him. When the pine needle spring return rat saw Lin Yuan take the pine nuts, it turned around and scurried into the distance. It planned to find some nuts to eat on the Leaning Moon Mountain. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan urged the amber button-shaped source-type source sand on his sleeve to turn it into a wisp of fine sand. When this wisp of fine sand exerted force, it crushed the shell of the iron pine nut. Lin Yuan took this huge pine nut and threw it toward the pine needle spring return rat's running route. This time, the pine needle spring return rat immediately experienced the joy of a pie falling from the sky. The pine needle spring return rat was a little puzzled. It had just given out an iron pine nut, so why did it gain an iron pine nut? When the pine needle spring rat turned its head, it found that there was no one behind it. At that moment, Lin Yuan had already entered the pavilion. Xueqi was waiting at the pavilion's entrance for Lin Yuan's return. Upon seeing Lin Yuan enter, Xueqi hurriedly bowed and said, "Lin Yuan, I'm here." "Your Highness, the hot spring is ready. I've also added some morning lotus dew in it. It can help you cleanse your soul in the hot spring, removing the impurities from your soul."
The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth could not help but twitch. How painful was it to wash away the impurities in the soul? The morning lotus clear dew was the condensation of dew from the lotus leaves of high-grade lotus phase at dawn. Among them, the effect of restraining one's mind was comparable to anesthetics used in physical surgery. After Xueqi left, Lin Yuan took the bowl of assorted lotus root starch to the hot spring and gulped down the bowl of lotus root starch that had been craving the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Then, he entered the hot spring. As soon as the lotus root starch entered his mouth, Lin Yuan felt a kind of intoxicating happiness. The lotus root starch felt warm and very comfortable in his stomach. This comfortable feeling spread from his stomach to his 5 viscera and 6 bowels before finally transmitting to his limbs. Lin Yuan could not help but feel a little puzzled. How was this not easy? This comfortable feeling could not be any better. However, when this comfortable feeling rose to his brain, Lin Yuan felt a chill run down his spine. Lin Yuan suddenly felt that he had become Crazy Dave, and there was a large wave of zombies frantically gnawing on his brain. This feeling was not the kind of pain that came from having one's skull split open and crushed. Instead, it was a piercing pain in the deepest part of his mind that was on the verge of being crushed. He could not find the exact location of the pain, so he could only grit his teeth and endure it. The pain dominated Lin Yuan's nerves, making him unable to even roar instinctively in the pool. He could only empty his mind and passively feel the pain in the deepest part of his mind. At that moment, under this extreme pain, Lin Yuan seemed to see the soul world in the deepest part of his mind that he had never pried into. Lin Yuan could only see 2 turbid illusory figures in the depths of his mind. Black-brown fragments constantly floated on the surface of these 2 turbid illusory figures and were peeled off. As the black-brown fragments were peeled off, these 2 turbid illusory figures became more and more transparent and solid. When Lin Yuan felt these black-brown fragments being peeled off again, these 2 turbid illusory figures became more and more transparent and solid. Lin Yuan felt that the memories of his previous and current lives were becoming increasingly clear. Even those fragments that were suddenly lost and smoothed over the years were all clearly appearing in front of him. Ask for tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 399. At that moment, Lin Yuan's mind was like a trotting horse lantern as he walked the path that he had walked in both lifetimes. The instant he finished walking the path of both lifetimes in his mind, Lin Yuan felt that the depths of his mind suddenly became unprecedentedly clear. This feeling of clarity made Lin Yuan feel that everything in the world had become refreshing, and his thinking had become more transparent. However, under that intense pain, Lin Yuan had already completely collapsed and did not have the strength to move now. The lotus flowers in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace's lotus pond had actually just reached the suzerain grade. They had just comprehended the willpower rune and woken up from their slumber. Their lotus roots being severed at this time would greatly affect their foundation. At that moment, the Moon Empress was pouring a bottle of dark green spirit liquid into this lotus pond. Once this dark green spirit liquid entered the lotus pond, the lotus phase that had just been severed immediately absorbed the energy in this dark green spirit liquid. It was to repair the damaged roots of these lotus phase when their lotus roots were severed. Moon Empress, according to your instructions, the amount of lotus root starch and silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar in young lord's bowl of assorted lotus root starch has been doubled. When Xueqi said this, she did not understand the Moon Empress' intention. 1 portion was enough to cleanse the soul. If it was doubled, then the extra double would be wasted for no reason. Even if the Moon Empress doted on young lord, it would be a pity to waste such a good thing. The Moon Empress said coldly, "Well done. Well done. This extra portion will allow little Yuan to immediately recover the overdrawn energy in his body to its optimal state after cleansing his soul. At the same time, it can also form a layer of protective film in the soul." Xueqi did not say much after hearing the Moon Empress words, but she already understood that the Moon Empress did not just dote on young lord. There was no need to use such a good thing to restore the overdrawn body to its best state. He could simply eat some nourishing spiritual ingredients and recuperate for a period of time to make up for it. The layer of protective film formed in the soul was only temporary. Perhaps in less than a year's time, the energy barrier formed in his soul would naturally dissipate. Although it could withstand the damage to the soul once a year, Xueqi still felt that it was appalling to use such a method. Even so, Xueqi still felt that using such a method was appalling. Lin Yuan was weak, helpless, and pitiful as he lay in the hot spring. Even after an hour, Lin Yuan felt that there was still no obvious effect.
This was because the process just now had exhausted his body too severely. Fortunately, he still had the strength to move his fingers. He took out the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that his master had given him from his diamond face storage box. Fortunately, Lin Yuan had already separated the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. The entire jar of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that could be called a bucket was divided into groups of 10 drops.
Otherwise, he would not be able to carry the large jar of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar with the strength of only a finger.
A small bottle contained 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, and Lin Yuan felt as though he had come back to life. However, even if he consumed these 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Lin Yuan still felt that his overdrawn body had not completely recovered. This surprised Lin Yuan. It should be known that every drop of diamond-grade silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar contained extremely rich energy. Lin Yuan did not dare to imagine how much energy his body had overdrawn from the intense pain just now. He took out another 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and drank them. Lin Yuan felt that his body's overdrawn energy had finally been replenished. This was when Lin Yuan began to try to enter the depths of his mind to see his soul. Lin Yuan found that he could not do it no matter what. Lin Yuan scratched the back of his head. Logically speaking, a normal person should only have one soul, but I have two. What's going on? Lin Yuan changed into his spirit chi clothes and went to find his master, the Moon Empress. He then left one of the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles for Mystic Moon. After some time, Mystic Moon would bring the tentacle to a more suitable location in the Divine Wood Federation. At that time, Lin Yuan could open a spatial tunnel from here to the Divine Wood Federation. Then, Lin Yuan left the Radiant Moon Palace. When Lin Yuan walked to the silver stamen gold luster cassia's side in front of the palace, the Mother of Bloodbath jumped from the silver stamen gold luster cassia's treetop to Lin Yuan's shoulder. When the Mother of Bloodbath saw Lin Yuan, it was surprised to find that Lin Yuan was different from when he had just entered.
Although there was not the slightest change in appearance, his spirit or temperament seemed to have directly improved by a level. This temperament that seemed to point to the true nature made the Mother of Bloodbath feel that even if it did not know Lin Yuan and was not his path protector,
it would also give Lin Yuan a natural favorable impression. This was because Lin Yuan's temperament of returning to the true nature made it very easy for Fays to get close to him. After leaving the Leaning Moon Mountain, the Mother of Bloodbath transformed into a human form and put on the cloud pattern mask made by Hu Quan. Lin Yuan also put on the mask with the majestic sky city pattern on his face. The Mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice rang in Lin Yuan's ears. Did you personally go to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce this time because it encountered some trouble? Lin Yuan looked at the Mother of Bloodbath with some surprise. He asked, "Didn't you comprehend the blood law rune? Why do you know mind reading?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Mother of Bloodbath rolled its eyes at him and snorted. "If there was nothing, why would you bring a damn homebody out? How long has it been since you came back from the depths of the endless forest and stayed in the mansion?" Lin Yuan had been communicating with Listen on the phone these few days, and knew that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was facing the suppression of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce started as a chamber of commerce, but it had now begun to set foot in other fields. In terms of scale, it was more than 10 times larger than the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce that Listen controlled. It could be called a new emerging faction. Previously, Listen had heard that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce only had 2 king-class experts at its peak. However, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had as many as 6 king-class experts. Among them, 2 were pinnacle king-class existences. Now, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce did not even have 1 king-class expert. This caused Listen to struggle at death's door under the suppression of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce without any room to fight back. Lin Yuan had previously helped Listen promote those 2 bronze/flawless Fays to bronze/epic. It could be considered helping the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce survive a certain calamity. However, even if the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had left Indigo Azure City, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was biting it tighter and tighter. Asking for tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 400. When Lin Yuan and Listen were on the phone, he could clearly feel that Listen was completely holding on to the current situation. However, it was undeniable that Listen was very motivated. Listen had taken the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to rely on him, and had sworn an oath with a willpower rune. In that case, He would have to be responsible for Listen and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Soon, Lin Yuan and the mother of Bloodbath arrived at the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Lin Yuan saw a rather large white house in front of him. It was decorated very simply on the outside without any decorations. From time to time, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's employees would take out or move various Fey storage boxes. Ostrich Logistics exclusive couriers would then complete the online supply of goods. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce no longer had any offline resources. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's offline resources had been completely devoured by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce through commercial competition. Fortunately, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources were very complicated, and the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce didn't know where to start. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the two employees who had come out to move the Fey storage box whispering to each other. "Old Zhao, do you think we can get through this? The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce is coming in aggressively. It seems like they won't give up until they achieve their goal. We'll just do our job. Anyway, we can't help. I believe the president will have a solution. By the way, did the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce come to poach you? Those bastards from the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce have come to me several times, but I've rejected them all. I've worked here for half my life. I'm indebted to the old and young presidents. No matter how much the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce offers, I won't go." Upon hearing the two employees of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce whispering to each other, the mother of Bloodbath said with some surprise, "The employees of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce are quite loyal." Lin Yuan shook his head. Even the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's ordinary employees were poached by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. In that case, those who are still in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce should be people who are unwilling to leave or have other purposes for the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The mother of Bloodbath frowned slightly. Undercover. Lin Yuan's face darkened. Since the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has cut off the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's offline resources, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce can only make use of online resources now. The mother of Bloodbath said when it saw Lin Yuan's expression darken. "What? Worried about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's future?" Lin Yuan shook his head upon hearing that. He was not worried about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's future, but about the safety of the remaining employees. The mass-produced objects made of completely jade-textured powder were simply in short supply in the market. If objects made of jade-textured wood were said to be treasured by the rich and powerful families. Thus, items made from jade-textured powder were the favorites of wealthy families with some background. Therefore, even if the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce lost all its online and offline resources, as long as it was a Chamber of Commerce recognized by the Radiance Federation, it had the functions of a Chamber of Commerce. If he poured these scarce resources into the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, he would be able to let it develop again regardless of the obstacles. However, as the saying goes, the dagger will be revealed when the map is unraveled. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had been plotting against the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce and had already infiltrated the ordinary employees. This was enough to show how determined the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was to destroy the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce crushed the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce several times in terms of resources and strength. If they lost the patience to slowly nibble away at the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, would they use force? A loud noise exploded out of thin air in the quiet room. A middle-aged man with a full beard was slamming the table with his hand and yelling non-stop. "Big brother, I don't know why young Master Zheng is so concerned about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. We've eaten all the offline resources. Only the framework and miscellaneous online resources are left, and I find them too thin. Do you think young Master Zheng is sick?" Another slightly older middle-aged man was holding a wine pot with a dragon beast engraved on it and pouring wine into a cup. Even his face, which was still calm after the loud noise, suddenly changed, and he shouted angrily. "Impudent! Is young Master Zheng someone you can talk to? How many times have I told you to be careful with your words and actions? Why don't you take it to heart?" The older middle-aged man glared fiercely at the middle-aged man with a full beard. "Big brother, it's just the two of us. If there were outsiders, we wouldn't say such things." The older middle-aged man shouted angrily again. "You should be more careful when it's just the two of us. Otherwise, if you say it's a habit, how can our Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce still receive young Master Zheng's resources?" The bearded middle-aged man didn't seem to care at all and immediately said angrily, "Big brother,
the listening heron chamber of commerce is so thin and has nothing, and it's so hard to deal with. Why do we have to spend so much effort? We might as well go all the way and settle it cleanly." At this point, the bearded middle-aged man revealed an ominous glint. He was like a little bear that had been hungry for half a month on the mountain and was eager to hunt. The older middle-aged man was calmly drinking the strong liquor in his cup. He picked up the wine pot with the dragon pattern on it and carefully tasted it. He said unhurriedly, "We definitely have to use force, but not now." "You don't always use force. Use your brain more. You still have a lot to learn." The bearded middle-aged man strode forward, picked up a wine cup on the table, and placed it in front of the older middle-aged man.
"I'm thirsty too. Pour me some."
The older middle-aged man took the dragon wine pot and poured a cup of strong liquor for his younger brother.
"Aren't you curious why young Master Zhang is putting so much effort into the listening heron chamber of commerce that even you and I don't think highly of?"
As he spoke, the older middle-aged man's eyes flickered with a calculating glint. At this time, there was a knock on the door, followed by a shout from the person at the door.
"Great President. Second President. Elder Fei's news has come back."
The middle-aged man with a full beard said angrily,
"Bring it in."
After the person who came to deliver the news handed in a paper envelope, he immediately retreated.
The older middle-aged man took the letter and opened it. A satisfied look appeared on his face.
The middle-aged man with a full beard moved his bare face closer and looked at the words on the surface.
He was a little surprised when he saw them. "Big brother. Is this the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resource?"
The older middle-aged man slapped the paper envelope on the table and said,
"Let's see how the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce can hold on now. One night watch asking for tickets, end of this chapter." Chapter 401. The middle-aged man with a full beard picked up the piece of paper in disbelief. After glancing at it again, he asked curiously, "Big brother, why is this a paper document?"
A mocking smile appeared on the face of the older middle-aged man.
The person who spread the news is afraid of leaving evidence and doesn't want to lose his loyalty to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce on the surface. The bearded middle-aged man coughed in dissatisfaction. "Big brother, don't keep us guessing."
Seeing that his younger brother was so anxious, the older middle-aged man said,
"Apart from Listen, only old butler Chen De, who has served the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce for 3 generations, knows such important news. Who do you think told me this news?"
The bearded middle-aged man was even more surprised.
"This Chen De is very loyal. I promised to give him 2 bronze/flawless phase and 200,000 radiance dollars, but he refused to tell me the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources. I asked him to name his price, but that old fart still wouldn't budge. How did you manage to deal with someone who isn't even afraid of death, big brother?"
The slightly older middle-aged man used his hand to rub the wine pot with the pattern of a dragon beast on it as he said in a calm manner,
"I got Elder Fei to capture Qianda's son and 2 grandsons. Then I got Elder Fei to implant the mind-controlling silkworm goo larvae into Qianda's son's body. Then, I got Elder Fei to release Qianda's son. Just 3 days later, Qianda sent a message saying that he wanted to hand over the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources to me. Qianda isn't afraid of death, but Qianda is afraid that his son will die, and he's afraid that I'll attack his 2 grandsons." The bearded middle-aged man's eyes lit up as he listened. After listening to the older middle-aged man, the bearded middle-aged man couldn't help but say, "Big brother, since we have obtained the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources, why don't we let Elder Fei take Qianda's?" Before the bearded middle-aged man could finish his sentence, the older middle-aged man interrupted his younger brother's words and said, "You failed to live up to your expectations. How many times have I told you that credibility is the most important thing for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to develop its forces? Why haven't you understood? If this gets out, even the Zhang family will have scruples when investing resources in us, let alone other factions that will exclude us." The bearded middle-aged man habitually raised his wine cup and said, "I remember Big Brother's words. I'll remember Big Brother's words. I know I was wrong. I'll fuck you up."
When the older middle-aged man heard this, he slammed the wine pot in his hand onto the table.
He felt that his beloved dragon beast wine pot was not worth looking at anymore. "Big brother." Lin Yuan looked at Listen, and asked, "You can't hold on for a week anymore, right?" Listen's eyes were red from not sleeping for the past few days,
and his expression was full of exhaustion. "Listen up, listen, listen Lin, up, up. I won't be able to hold on for another 3 days." The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce should have just grasped my online resources at this time. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce won't be able to swallow my online resources in less than 3 days. Upon hearing Listen's words, Lin Yuan raised his brows slightly. "How do you know that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources have been lost?" Upon hearing that, Listen's expression became somewhat pained and cold at the same time. "Grandpa Qian has been supporting me for so many years, but when I went to look for him 3 days ago, he wasn't at the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. When he came back the next day, he looked at me with vague guilt in his eyes, and he didn't say much. Only Grandpa Qian and I know about the online resources on my side." Listen stopped talking. However, Lin Yuan did not speak after hearing that. Instead, he looked at Listen, wanting him to continue speaking. When Listen saw Lin Yuan's eyes, he understood what he meant and continued speaking. He continued, "After this matter is over, I'll send Grandpa Qian away from the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to Indigo Azure City for retirement. In the future, all the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's matters will have nothing to do with him." As soon as Listen finished speaking, Lin Yuan raised his hand slightly. A platinum phase storage box landed in front of Listen. Lin Yuan said, "There are 1,350 items of different sizes here. Without the online resources, can these items hold on?" Listen picked up the platinum phase storage box, and the fatigue on his face was swept away. Although Listen's eyes were red because he had not slept for the past few days, there was no change in his eyes. At that moment, Listen's eyes were filled with unparalleled confidence. These 1,350 items are equivalent to an investment of 13.5 million radiance dollars, and these items are top-notch resources. If I can't hold on, how can I dare to make a promise to let the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce become a rising faction in 4 months? The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth curled up. Hu Quan found 27 Class 3 Spirit Craftsmen, which is 70 more than the expected 200 items per day. You just have to develop the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce well. I'll solve the problem of military resources for you. Lin Yuan had already started the white-clothed followers plan. Before the spatial tunnel to the Divine Wood Federation was opened, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was the best home for the white-clothed followers. Within 4 months, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would rely on these items made of completely jade-textured wood powder to advance into a rising faction in its current situation. It was unknown how many pairs of eyes were spying in the dark, and how many hungry wolves wanted to pounce forward and tear apart the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's flesh. He wanted to share the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's feast. At that time, if the turbulent Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce did not have the support of king-class combat power, the cold currents mixed with wind and rain would soon blow the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce into pieces. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Listen's eyes lit up, and he spoke quickly. "If you can guarantee that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce has enough combat power to support it, then I'm confident in letting the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce hit the threshold of a rising faction within 3 months. Lin Yuan did not respond to Listen. In Lin Yuan's opinion, even with so many resources, it was already extremely difficult for Listen to achieve the transformation into a rising faction within 4 months. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Listen's 3-month period was a little harsh. At that moment, the strange and pleasant voice of the Mother of Bloodbath, which had been silent all this while, sounded a little cold. A king-class expert dares to eavesdrop unscrupulously? Does he really think that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce has no one? Second update, asking for votes, staying up all night writing, so sleepy I only finished typing at 5 in the morning, boo-hoo. Asking for support. End of this chapter. Chapter 402. The Mother of Bloodbath had spoken for a long time, but no one responded. Lin Yuan scanned the empty room with his eyes but didn't find anything. However, Lin Yuan knew that since the Mother of Bloodbath had said so, it was destined that a king-class expert was eavesdropping on his conversation with Listen. At that moment, the Mother of Bloodbath's voice sounded again. However, compared to before, Lin Yuan could clearly hear the strong killing intent in the Mother of Bloodbath's words. "Why? Do you want me to invite you out instead of coming out?" All of a sudden, a black figure appeared by the window. A black-robed, white-haired, skinny old man suddenly appeared at the window. He was as abrupt as a bat that suddenly appeared in front of the window at noon. The old man broke the window with a kick, then jumped into the room with a high and mighty look on his face. There was an exceptionally ugly and ferocious-looking insect species Fey lying on each of the old man's shoulders.
Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check the attributes of these two ugly insect species Feys. Fey name, Mind-Controlling Silkworm Goo, Fey species. Silkworm/Thought Silkworm, Fey grade. Diamond, 4 out of 10. Fey type. Dark/Poison, Fey quality. Fantasy 2. Fey name, Blood-Toothed Cricket, Fey species. Wingless Cricket/Toothed Cricket, Fey grade. Diamond, 3 out of 10. Fey type. Blood/Poison, Fey quality. Fantasy 3. Lin Yuan looked at the attributes of these two insect species Feys and then at the black-robed white-haired old man. This old man's strength is really not bad. One of the two poison species Feys is good at cursing, and the other is good at assassination. At the same time, they are both high-grade fantasy breeds. Among them, the Diamond 4/Fantasy 2 mind-controlling silkworm Goo needed to devour a large number of hearts to enhance the curse effect before casting its curse ability. The Diamond 3/Fantasy 3 blood-toothed cricket was also an insect species Fey that usually needed to drink a lot of blood. Such a combination of insidious insect species Feys showed that this old man was not a good person. Tisk. TSK. TSK. Little girl, you do have some eyesight to be able to discover this old man's existence. After the old man finished speaking, Lin Yuan cursed inwardly. Although the mother of Bloodbath had an extremely strong foodie attribute in the mansion and was extremely friendly to the people in the mansion, it didn't seem to care about the mother of Bloodbath. However, it was undeniable that the mother of Bloodbath was an insect species Fey. Furthermore, it was a spider Fey, which was the cruelest among the insect species Feys. The law rune that the mother of Bloodbath had mastered was the Blood Law rune. Only by truly understanding the essence of blood could one dare to say that they could see through the rules of blood. Therefore, if the mother of Bloodbath's subordinates did not bleed like a river, how could they master the Blood Law rune? However, this old man actually spoke to the mother of Bloodbath like an old monk hanging himself. The mother of Bloodbath stepped forward with a playful expression on its face. Hee hee, you called me a little girl? The black-robed, white-haired elder had long known that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce didn't have a king-class expert. Although he didn't know how this strange masked woman with dark patterns of flowing clouds had discovered him, he didn't know what to do. But even if they found out, what could they do? They were just a bunch of trash. The black-robed elder's face was full of mockery. He looked at Lin Yuan, Listen, and the mother of Bloodbath as though they were three fun toys. Your ears aren't good at such a young age. Could it be that you're not a little girl, but a little sissy in women's clothing? Lin Yuan originally wanted to tell the mother of Bloodbath not to kill so easily. However, since the old man had spoken like this, Lin Yuan couldn't stop the mother of Bloodbath anymore. After all, dignity had always been the top priority for experts. The old man's words had obviously touched the mother of Bloodbath's bottom line. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath suddenly laughed. However, that pleasant voice was filled with an extremely evil flavor. The frequency of this laughter was faintly like the hissing of a spider Fey when it was hunting for food. The black-robed, white-haired elder felt a chill all over his body for some reason after hearing the mother of Bloodbath's laughter. Goosebumps immediately covered his whole body, and even the age spots on his face were uneven because of the goosebumps. An inexplicable sense of crisis appeared in the elder's heart, and he shouted, Blood-toothed cricket, kill this woman with the blood-poison thorn. The blood-toothed cricket was only the size of half a palm, and its entire body was blood-red. However, its blood-red body was covered with black patches and brownish-green thorns, making it very ugly. The blood-toothed cricket's blood-red body was covered with black patches and brownish-green thorns, making it very ugly. When the blood-toothed cricket heard the old man's instructions, it stomped its powerful hind legs and shot toward the mother of Bloodbath. At the same time, two fangs formed by blood energy formed in front of the mother of Bloodbath. The front end of the fangs formed by blood energy also carried green venom that emitted a dark black light. At that moment, the aura that the mother of Bloodbath had been restraining penetrated through its body and dispersed the blood fangs formed by the blood-toothed cricket's blood-poison thorn in one fell swoop. A kind of monarch's aura radiated from the mother of Bloodbath's body. However, this monarch's aura was only controlled by the mother of Bloodbath within the range of this room. At the same time, this monarch's aura emitted a kind of evil coldness. It was as if the bright room had instantly turned into a dark crypt for spiders to hunt. The blood-toothed cricket landed on the ground from mid-air and twitched violently. A blood-red luster flickered on the surface of its body, and a willpower similar to blood suddenly appeared on the blood-toothed cricket's body. Hee, this fantasy breed blood-toothed cricket is really compatible with this blood-poison willpower rune. It's just that it's really interesting to let a fantasy breed insect attack me with a blood ability. As soon as the mother of Bloodbath's voice fell, the blood-poison willpower energy was directly stripped from the blood-toothed cricket's body. It then slowly fused into the mother of Bloodbath's body. The mother of Bloodbath's body rippled with a blood-red luster. With the blood-poison willpower extracted from the blood-toothed cricket's body, it fell from a fantasy breed to a Diamond 3/Legend Fae. The black-robed, white-haired old man suddenly exclaimed, "A suzerain/myth breed Fae." The old man's voice was full of bewilderment and fear, and even his voice was trembling. The mother of Bloodbath stepped toward the blood-toothed cricket that had fallen to the ground and said, "You have some knowledge. You even know about law stripping and system control." When the black-robed old man made the blood-toothed cricket attack the mother of Bloodbath, Listen's heart skipped a beat. This old man was simply too familiar to listen. This old man was the third leader of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, Fei Qianqiong. Third update asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 403. Fei Qianqiong could definitely be called a veteran king-class expert. As the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's number 3 figure, he had a fierce reputation outside. When the mother of Bloodbath had suddenly erupted with its aura, Listen and Fei Qianqiong were equally shocked. However, Listen's shock was different from Fei Qianqiong's. Fei Qianqiong was in panic and fear, while Listen had a kind of pleasant surprise in his heart. Listen looked at Lin Yuan without a trace and found that he was sitting there calmly. The expression on his face had not changed in the slightest. It was as though the king-class expert's sudden attack just now was just a gust of wind and not worth mentioning. Previously, Listen had only seen Lin Yuan inadvertently reveal his foundation in terms of resources. But now, Fei Qianqiong had only shouted the word suzerain/myth breed Fei. This was enough to prove that Lin Yuan's foundation in terms of martial strength was even deeper than his foundation in terms of resources. Listen shifted his gaze from Lin Yuan to the mother of Bloodbath and the blood-toothed cricket, which was twitching and struggling on the ground. Although Listen had never seen a myth breed Fae using law stripping and system mastery on a fantasy breed Fae, he had heard his grandfather mention it. Law stripping referred to the law rune's willpower within the law it belonged to. It was a means of stripping from a fantasy breed Fae. System mastery referred to the dominance of a superior Fae over inferior Fae of the same type. Listen did not know what kind of Fae the mother of Bloodbath's body was. However, based on the mother of Bloodbath's ability to strip the blood-toothed cricket's bloodline and system mastery, it could be seen that the mother of Bloodbath must be an insect species suzerain/myth breed Fae that controlled the blood law. Fei Qianqiong clearly felt that he had lost control of the blood-toothed cricket. However, the mind-controlling silkworm goo on his other shoulder was still under his control. Fei Qianqiong vaguely looked at the young man sitting on the sofa without making a sound. At the same time, he glanced at the blood-toothed cricket on the ground, which had its willpower rune removed and had fallen from its fantasy breed status. A trace of madness flashed in Fei Qianqiong's eyes. Fei Qianqiong did not know the identity of the young man sitting on the sofa. However, just by looking at the style of the mask on his face, it could be seen that this young man's identity was obviously higher than this suzerain/myth 2 Fei that had transformed into a human form. At this moment, Fei Qianqiong heard a strange yet pleasant voice ringing in his ears. "You've nurtured the blood-toothed cricket well. Even if it has fallen from a fantasy breed, this Diamond 4/Legend blood-toothed cricket is still useful. So destroy your spiritual energy fragment to release the contract and let this blood-toothed cricket become a wild Fae." The mother of Bloodbath's tone sounded as if it was talking about something very ordinary. However, these words were like an order to Fei Qianqiong, carrying the weight of 10,000 gold. Although Fei Qianqiong's eyes flashed with madness just now, he was already prepared to not walk out of this room alive. However, after hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Fei Qianqiong could not help but shudder. What was the difference between destroying the spiritual energy fragment to release the contract with a specific Fae and letting a spirit chi professional die? After a Fae and a spirit chi contractor formed a contract, in a sense it was a lifetime of fetters. However, if a spirit chi professional unilaterally destroyed the spiritual energy fragment in his mind with a specific Fae,
It would be equivalent to breaking the previous contract bridge with a specific fae. It was the same as severing the bridge of the contract with a specific fae. This would allow the contracted fae to regain its freedom. However, if a spirit chi professional destroyed the spiritual energy fragment in his mind related to a specific fae, it would be equivalent to severely injuring his own spiritual source. This kind of spiritual source injury could not be healed, which meant that the spirit chi professional would no longer be able to contract faes in the future. If it was serious, it might even shake the contract with other faes that had already been formed. It was not unheard of for a spirit chi professional to destroy the spiritual energy fragment related to a specific fae and release the contract with the fae. However, this kind of situation was generally when a spirit chi professional faced a desperate situation and knew that he could not survive. Therefore, he chose to destroy the spiritual energy fragment corresponding to the contracted fae, and let the contracted fae return to a wild fae. It was to prevent the fae from losing its life due to the contract when he died. However, how could Fei Qianqiong be willing to destroy the mental fragment between him and the blood-toothed cricket? Seeing that Fei Qianqiong did not move, the Mother of Bloodbath stretched out its hand and gently tapped the air. The moment the Mother of Bloodbath pointed its fingernails turned as red as viscous blood. Fei Qianqiong's miserable howl echoed in the room as the Mother of Bloodbath pointed its finger. This miserable howl was exceptionally mournful, as if it was suffering the cruelest punishment in the world. However, the miserable howl only lasted for a moment before Fei Qianqiong could no longer howl. His body constantly twisted into a strange arc on the ground. The Mother of Bloodbath walked in front of Lin Yuan and said, "This old man still has a mind control silkworm goo that he can use. He refused to destroy the mental fragment obediently just now. He must still be thinking of using the mind control silkworm goo to do something bad." With that said, the Mother of Bloodbath waved its hand and grabbed the chubby reddish-gold mind-controlling silkworm goo. The surface of the mind-controlling silkworm goo's reddish-gold body was very smooth and covered with dark red spots. Every time the mind-controlling silkworm goo used its larvae to place goo in the target's body to control the target's life, a dark red spot would appear on its back. The dark red spots on the mind-controlling silkworm goo in the Mother of Bloodbath's hand were so dense that they were almost connected. There were at least 1,000 of them. In other words, there were still thousands of people's lives in Fei Qianqiong's hands. As long as Fei Qianqiong wanted those controlled people to die, he only needed to issue an order to the mind-controlling silkworm goo. Those mind-controlling silkworm goo larvae lurking in the target's body would drill into the target's heart. Lin Yuan looked at Fei Qianqiong, who was rolling on the ground with his body twisted into a strange shape, without the slightest pity. If the Mother of Bloodbath was not stronger than Fei Qianqiong, the Mother of Bloodbath would have died under the blood-toothed cricket's ability. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had been targeting the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had always been in a passive position. Lin Yuan could not help but have doubts in his heart. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was already a rising faction. It was more profitable to do something casually than to target the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Why was the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce still chasing after the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, which only had an empty shell left? Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Clawbook House, for free. Chapter 404. If the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce didn't have a life and death feud with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce wouldn't be able to survive. Spending so much effort to target the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources was a loss-making deal. Now that the third-in-command of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was in front of him, this was obviously a good opportunity to find out the reason. He looked at the Mother of Bloodbath standing beside him. The Mother of Bloodbath was playing with the violently struggling mind-controlling silkworm goo in its hand, exerting strength from time to time. The Mother of Bloodbath watched with interest as the mind-controlling silkworm goo was slowly toyed with until it was half dead. Upon seeing Lin Yuan look at it, the Mother of Bloodbath said, "Don't worry. Right now, this old thing is experiencing the pain of a blade made of blood carving on every bone in his body. There's no way he can resist at all." Upon hearing the Mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan turned to speak to listen. "You should have a lot of questions about why the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has been targeting the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, right? There's no harm in asking about it now." Upon hearing that, Listen's expression froze, and he looked at Lin Yuan with gratitude in his eyes. Lin Yuan did not say anything else. He just gently patted Listen's shoulder and gave him an affirmative look. When Listen looked at Fei Qianqiong, Listen's eyes had become extremely sharp, and his face was getting gloomier and gloomier. It could be said that over the past month or so, it was the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's ruthless oppression and fierce offensive that had almost brought the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to the brink of collapse. Without Lin Yuan's support, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce would have completely controlled the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources 3 days later. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would no longer exist in this world. With Lin Yuan's encouragement and acquiescence, Listen walked up to Fei Qianqiong. Listen had mixed feelings as he looked at Fei Qianqiong, who was struggling under his feet. Listen originally had countless questions he wanted to ask Fei Qianqiong. Ask Fei Qianqiong why the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has been chasing after the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce and forcing it into a dead end. What kind of benefits had the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce given his uncles to make them leave the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce without even saying goodbye? However, all these words were stuck in Listen's throat when he was about to ask them. This was the first time Listen could look down on the people in the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce as a powerhouse. And this person was the third leader of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. Listen wasn't stupid. He knew that the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce must have some ulterior motives for treating his Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce like this in the past month. However, no matter how Listen thought about it, he did not know what he had that was worth the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce thinking about. Listen watched Fei Qianqiong struggle for a long time, watching coldly and not saying a word. When Listen looked down at him, Fei Qianqiong's eyes revealed a pleading emotion. At that moment, Listen said coldly, "Fei Qianqiong, do you have anything to say about the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce?" The intense pain made Fei Qianqiong unable to make a sound, but he still nodded his head like a madman. Fei Qianqiong nodded frantically. A blood-red luster flashed in the mother of Bloodbath's eyes. A blood-red luster flashed in the mother of Bloodbath's eyes. Although Fei Qianqiong was still in so much pain that he couldn't stand up, he could barely suppress the pain and speak. "I don't know why the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce is targeting you. I'm also listening to the orders of the two brothers, Bai Chenghu and Bai Chengxiong." Fei Qianqiong had just finished speaking when he heard a strange and pleasant voice say playfully, "Hee hee. Listening to orders? It seems that you're just a minion who listens to orders. In this case, it's useless to keep you. The taste of the blood carving on every bone just now seems to be too light. You might as well try." Before the mother of Bloodbath could finish speaking, Fei Qianqiong's last trace of mental defense collapsed. "It's young Master Zheng. The Zheng family's young Master Zheng has been making arrangements behind the scenes." Listen subconsciously asked when he suddenly heard young Master Zheng. "Indigo Azure City's Zheng family?" Fei Qianqiong hurriedly nodded. Now that he had already spat out, he had no more worries. "Although I don't know why young Master Zhang wants to attack the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, this order was issued a month and a half ago. Don't you know what your Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is being targeted in Indigo Azure City?" Fei Qianqiong felt a little wronged as he spoke. Upon hearing that, Listen's brows furrowed tightly. Lin Yuan could not help but raise his brows. Young Master Zheng? The Zheng family? During this time, Lin Yuan had also crammed in information about the Radiance Federation's large and small factions. However, Lin Yuan had only crammed in on the larger factions. There were too many small factions, and he had not had time to start flipping through the information. There was simply too much information about the small factions. Lin Yuan planned to let Genius memorize the information of those small factions. This was no different from Lin Yuan understanding the information of these small factions. Although Lin Yuan had only flipped through the information of the larger factions, however, Lin Yuan knew about the Zheng family. The Zheng family was one of the 3 major aristocratic families of Indigo Azure City. The 3 major aristocratic families of Indigo Azure City were equally divided, and their strength could be said to be evenly matched. The Zheng family was a thoroughly wealthy family and a veteran faction with a deep foundation. In terms of martial strength, all the veteran factions had Emperor-class experts. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not have an advantage compared to the Zheng family in terms of top combat power. Apart from Endless Summer and the Mother of Bloodbath, which were the top combat power, Lin Yuan had almost no other combat power in his hands. Take the King-class expert for example. Lin Yuan currently only had one King-class expert in his hands. That was Hu Quan. However, Hu Quan was only adept at the spirit craftsman aspect. The contracted phase were also to support the spirit craftsman ability.
Xueqi might not even be able to beat Lu Jie in a fight. It could be said that he was still very weak in terms of king-class combat power. It could even be said that there was no such thing. In terms of resources, the Zheng family could be said to be a family in Indigo Azure City.
Although it was inferior to the Gao family that Gao Feng was from, the Zheng family was a family that could be considered a third of the world in Indigo Azure City.
However, when Lin Yuan thought about how the Gao family was able to provide resources like the island whale and the elemental shellfish, the analogy was feasible and he knew the Zheng family's foundation in terms of resources. Lin Yuan did not expect that taking over the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would cause such a big trouble. However, Fei Qianqiong said that young Master Zhang of the Zheng family was the one making the arrangements, not the Zheng family. The Zheng family was different from the Gao family. The Gao family only had Gao Feng as their only heir. It could be said that in a few decades, Gao Feng would have absolute power in the Gao family. However, the Zheng family had a large population. Among the younger generation of the Zheng family, there were 9 people who could be called young Master Zheng, and only 3 of them were direct descendants. Begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Hehe. End of this chapter. Chapter 405. In any wealthy family, one's background was extremely important. The words of a direct descendant could represent the family. However, the words of a branch descendant could only represent himself. Fei Qianqiong, is this young Master Zhang you mentioned a direct descendant of Indigo Azure City's Zheng family? Lin Yuan's clear voice sounded in Fei Qianqiong's ears, and he did not dare to be the slightest bit negligent. However, Fei Qianqiong was a little troubled by Lin Yuan's question. Young Master, only the 2 brothers, Bai Chenghu and Bai Chengxiong, have seen young Master Zheng. I've never seen what he looks like at all, so whether he's a direct descendant of the Zheng family or not. Fei Qianqiong knew that the young man who was asking him was the most important person in this room. When the mind-controlling silkworm goo was still under Fei Qianqiong's control, crazy thoughts flashed in his mind. However, the blood-toothed cricket was struggling on the ground and was not under his control at all. The mind-controlling silkworm goo was also half dead in the hands of that suzerain/myth breed humanoid Fei. Even if Fei Qianqiong wanted to go crazy now, he did not have the ability to do so. It was only a split-second decision for a person to not be afraid of death, but when this decision was made and faced with a line between life and death, almost everyone would change their decision and become afraid of death. Almost everyone would change their mind and become afraid of death, and Fei Qianqiong was no exception. What Fei Qianqiong wanted the most now was to be able to live. After hearing Fei Qianqiong's words, Lin Yuan pondered. When he looked up, he happened to see Listen's eyes looking at him. He was obviously waiting for him to make a decision. Lin Yuan knew what Listen was thinking. Presumably, when facing a veteran faction, most people would not hesitate to abandon an empty shelf like the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. At that moment, Listen was like a deer that had just found its direction in despair. However, this deer was worried that the direction he was looking for would regard him as a burden and abandon him. Just when Listen felt that the air was getting thinner and that the air in his lungs was faintly stuffy, Lin Yuan waved his hand and threw something over. Listen hurriedly went to catch it. When he held it in his hand, he felt that it was warm. At a glance, he realized that it was a wooden sign made of completely jade-textured chicken wing wood with the word, Quan, engraved on it. At that moment, Listen heard Lin Yuan say, "In the future, I won't be giving you those objects mixed with completely jade-textured wood powder. Just take this plate and set a time every day to pick them up at the Spirit Craftsman Association." Listen held the tablet in his hand tightly. This wooden block's words indicated Lin Yuan's attitude toward himself and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Chapter 406. It was easy to see a person's pattern from how they dealt with a matter. Usually, how big a person's vision was would determine how big a stall he could manage and how big a scene he could plan. As the saying goes, a person with a high level of vision must have the magnanimity to tolerate others. If Listen had a high level of vision, he would have accepted Fei Qianqiong. Whether Listen let Fei Qianqiong live or die, it would not change Lin Yuan's current attitude toward Listen. However, the higher Listen's level was, the more Lin Yuan would be willing to tilt more of his resources to Listen's operation. He even allowed Listen to carry out more comprehensive management of the external resources that Sky City controlled. When Fei Qianqiong heard Lin Yuan's words, an abnormal fear arose in his heart, and his body trembled like a sieve. Fei Qianqiong had always felt that he was a king-class expert.
As long as he was willing to swear allegiance with the willpower rune, it should not be a problem for him to exchange his strength for a way out. However, this masked youth had casually thrown his life and death to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's listen. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had caused the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to become like this. If he were Listen, how could he let himself live? Listen had not expected that Fei Qianqiong's life would actually be thrown into his hands by Lin Yuan. Listen understood the ways of the world and could understand that Lin Yuan had not accepted Fei Qianqiong's allegiance because he was concerned about his feelings. Otherwise, a king-class expert would willingly become a servant. But that was equivalent to giving up everything he had. Such benefits were delivered to his doorstep, but Lin Yuan did not accept them. Listen had sworn to rely on Lin Yuan with the willpower rune mainly to find a way out for himself and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. However, Listen now had a deep sense of belonging to Lin Yuan. Listen looked at Fei Qianqiong and narrowed his eyes. However, before Fei Qianqiong could despair, Listen turned to Lin Yuan and said firmly, "I'm willing to take Fei Qianqiong. Fei Qianqiong is more valuable alive than dead." Lin Yuan was a little surprised by Listen's quick choice. This showed that Listen did not care about hatred at all and had always regarded Fei Qianqiong as a valuable counterweight. Such a setup could not be said to be small. Lin Yuan nodded. In that case, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce will have a king-class expert stationed from today onward. Lying on the ground, Fei Qianqiong, who was originally in a state of despair, felt that his emotions had flipped too quickly, and his brain wasn't enough to process it. Listen looked at Fei Qianqiong and enunciated each word clearly. "If you can contribute to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce in the future, I won't treat you poorly because of what you've done before." Listen's words caused Fei Qianqiong, who was in turmoil, to immediately feel that the relationship between him and Listen had become much closer. After Fei Qianqiong used the willpower rune to swear to be Listen's servant, he officially became Listen's servant. He was also Lin Yuan's faction's first true combat class king-class expert. Lin Yuan stood up from the sofa and spoke. "Do you want to keep Fei Qianqiong in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, or do you want him to return to the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce as a spy? It's up to you." After saying that, he took out an ethereal jellyfish's tentacle and set up a spatial node here. Lin Yuan and the Mother of Bloodbath then left the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Listen's mind raced as he thought about his future plans. He was calculating the 270 items made of completely jade-textured wood powder that Lin Yuan would pour into him every day. That was equivalent to a capital injection of 2.7 million radiance dollars. In 3 months, it would be a total of 243 million radiance dollars. Fei Qianqiong stood respectfully beside Listen. A ridiculous feeling arose in his heart. He did not expect that in just an hour, his life would change. He had even walked through the gates of hell. Fei Qianqiong stood beside Listen, but he did not know that Listen was already thinking. How could he rely on his spy and 243 million radiance dollars to devour the entire Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce within 3 months? "Big brother, why hasn't Elder Fei come back yet?" "That old thing, Elder Fei, actually made us 2 brothers wait for him here." The older middle-aged man by Chenghu had a face as black as the bottom of a pot as he spoke resentfully. "Will you starve to death if you eat a little later? When will you get rid of your bad habit of dragging people along? Think about what you should and shouldn't say when you have nothing better to do." The bearded middle-aged man by Chengxiong subconsciously raised the wine glass in his hand and said, "Big brother, I was wrong. I'll fuck you up." Bai Chenghu's face that was as black as the bottom of a pot suddenly turned red, and he couldn't help but rub his temples. He felt the fire in his heart surging up, making his head swell. At this time, Bai Chengxiong saw Fei Qianqiong walking in, so he shouted at the top of his lungs. "Elder Fei, why did you take so long for such a small matter?" Fei Qianqiong was angered by Bai Chengxiong's words. "What do you mean by such a small matter? Damn it, such a small matter almost took the life of my old bones." Bai Chenghu stood up and glared fiercely at Bai Chengxiong. Then he went up and said, "Old Fei, you've worked hard. Come, have a taste of the dragon tiger blood tendon wine that I specially prepared." Bai Chenghu enthusiastically pulled Fei Qianqiong to his seat. Bai Chengxiong talked non-stop while he ate his meal. However, the Zheng family strictly controlled the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's creation master resources, leaving the entire Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce without any creation master. As a result, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce could only rely on the Zheng family. At the same time, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce did not have much use for these mutated Feis. Bai Chenghu looked at Fei Qianqiong pouring wine for him and thought that he might as well give Fei Qianqiong a chance. So, Bai Chenghu said, "Elder Fei, don't touch the online and offline resources for the ordinary spirit materials. I'll leave the online and offline resources for the ordinary spirit beasts to you." Fei Qianqiong hurriedly toasted Bai Chenghu and said, "Chenghu, in terms of resources for high-end luxury items, what do you think?" Bai Chenghu refused directly without thinking. "I'll think of a way to deal with this." Bai Chenghu's heart, which had been a little touched before, suddenly became as hard as stone. He looked at Fei Qianqiong again and immediately became vigilant. The Zheng family's main business direction was high-end luxury items. Bai Chenghu could not help but think, is Fei Qianqiong thinking of letting me give him a chance to get close to young Master Zheng? Bai Chenghu had already made up his mind to let Fei Qianqiong help him take over more of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's matters in the future. However, he had to keep a close eye on Fei Qianqiong and not give him any chance to get on young Master Zheng's ship. Fei Qianqiong secretly let out a breath and thought to himself, the task assigned by Listen is considered completed. Fei Qianqiong recalled how Bai Chenghu's gaze had changed from scrutinizing to intimate to defensive, and he only felt abnormally excited. For some reason, Fei Qianqiong suddenly felt that acting seemed more exciting than using the mind-controlling silkworm goo to control people's hearts. At the same time, he could not help but curse Bai Chenghu in his heart. "My big neck is wet from crying, and I cried so sincerely. I didn't even cry so sadly when my wife died. You're still on guard against me. See if I don't screw you over." First update. Asking for monthly votes. Asking for complete subscriptions. End of this chapter. Chapter 408. In the study room on the second floor of the Return from Faraway Manor. There was a huge wooden shelf on each side of the wall, and each small compartment on the shelf had a stack of information about each faction. During this time, when you had only sorted out a small part of the information about the veteran factions. This small part of the information filled half of the shelf. Obviously, these two shelves were not enough to sort out all the information about these large and small factions. Young Master, one of the Zhang family's 3 direct descendants, is a member of the Radiance 100 sequence. He has been busy with the S tournament for more than a month. This Zhang family's direct descendant has established a guild club and is fighting for the B-class guild club qualification this year. According to the S tournament's tight schedule, there shouldn't be time to arrange for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to deal with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's plan. One of the other 2 direct descendants was born with a serious illness, causing his legs to atrophy and making him unable to walk. Thus, he has been recuperating in Indigo Azure City. The 3rd direct descendant is a creation master. The Zheng family has poured a lot of resources into nurturing his abilities as a creation master. Presumably, the Zheng family will not let a creation master who is being nurtured waste time on such a small matter like the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Lin Yuan did not expect that he had just come to ask Wen Yu's opinion on the Zheng family situation. Wen Yu had actually grasped such detailed information about the Zheng family without missing a single trace. Lin Yuan wondered if there was a genius living in Wen Yu's head. At that moment, Wen Yu suddenly thought of something and said, "The Zheng family's 3rd lineage has been buying Indigo Azure City's coastal resources in large quantities since 5 years ago. But for so many years, the Zheng family's 3rd lineage has been occupying more and more coastal resources, but it has never started to develop these coastal resources. If the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce has an offshore coastal resource in Indigo Azure City, it should be blocking the way of the Zheng family's 3rd lineage." Lin Yuan could not help but ask when he heard Wen Yu mention the Zheng family's 3rd lineage. What's the difference between the Zheng family's 3rd lineage and the Zheng family? Wen Yu explained upon hearing that. The Zheng family is prosperous, and the main family is the direct descendant. The main family is divided into 4 lineages, and each lineage is a branch of the main family. The main family will selectively inject resources into the 4 bloodlines according to their development. In a sense, the main family is the real Zheng family. Lin Yuan first checked his Star Web Store's fan club. He found that through the accumulation of 3 blind trades, the number of creation masters in his Star Web Store's fan club had almost reached half of all members. Moreover, the lowest among these creation masters was a Class 3 creation master.
In the past, Lin Yuan had never spoken in his fan club. But this time, he took the initiative to send a message in his fan club. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, Group Welfare. 30 flower brocade pearls for sale in a package. The highest bidder will get it. Limited to group members. When Lin Yuan's message was sent, the Purchase with No Loss Stores fan club, which was already very active, immediately burst into an uproar. Stream in the cloud. Fuck. The group owner actually came back to life. Violent-tempered woman. Congratulations to the group owner for saying the first sentence after creating the group. Unlocked the I'm not a mute achievement. Fan Ji. 30 flower brocade pearls? The benefits of this group were too amazing. Jealous me. So many flower brocade pearls are enough for me to use for a few years. Everyone, please take it easy and give me a chance. Time to take medicine. Being addressed as a big shot by a Class 4 Creation Master is really fucking exciting. Qing Wanhua, Group Leader, what's the exchange rate for spiritual materials? If it was the market price, then it would be too much of a loss to exchange the rare spiritual materials. When Lin Yuan saw Qing Wanhua's message, he pondered for a moment and said, yes. The price of the rare spirit materials will be 2% higher than the Rare Life Form Pavilion's transaction price. If the Rare Life Form Pavilion doesn't have a transaction price, then I'm sure that none of you will take them out to exchange for this flower brocade pearl. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's answer, Lin Yuan nodded. Qing Wanhua. 2%? The group leader was very generous. Rare spirit materials were not cheap. Although 2% seemed to be a small amount. However, if he took out 10 million radiance dollars worth of rare spiritual ingredients to trade, he would be able to save over 100,000 radiance dollars. In any case, these rare spirit materials were all auctioned in the Rare Life Form Pavilion. He would be able to collect them in a year and a half. Over 100,000 radiance dollars were not considered a small amount. Lin Yuan noticed that Listen was chatting in the group, so he immediately added him. Second update. Button wishes everyone a happy new year, hee hee. End of this chapter. The man smiled bitterly and thought to himself. His innate talent wasn't bad, and it was in the direction of compatibility with lizard fays. However, he only had one main fay, and it was the defense-type lizard fay, the Iron Bone Iguana. Asking Master Duan Li to help him strengthen a spirit item had cost him 3 years' worth of savings. Even if he were to hire Master Duan Li for half the price, he would have to save up for at least a year and a half. Defense-class spirit chi professionals were the shields in front of the team. However, with the current strength of his Iron Bone Iguana, he simply could not bear the responsibility of being a shield in the team. Although the man smiled bitterly in his heart, he still spoke very respectfully. Thank you for Master Duan Li's generosity. Please convey my gratitude to her. After speaking, the man prepared to turn around and leave the Ascending Dragon City's Creation Master Association. The woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest pondered for a moment and said, "That's right. Your Iron Bone Iguana is not just a matter of bloodline. This Iron Bone Iguana will not be very strong even if it has the Gold Dragon's Mouth Orchid's flower to activate its dragon species bloodline. I heard from the teacher that the bulging sarcoma on the side of your Iron Bone Iguana's head is a mutation." As soon as the woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest finished speaking, the man quickly turned around and spoke nervously. Didn't Master Duan Li say that this sarcoma wouldn't affect the health of the Iron Bone Iguana? Moreover, it's been more than 10 years, and this tumor hasn't changed at all. The woman wearing the 4-star retainer crest didn't mind the man's impatience and rashness. That's why I said that it's a mutation. The man also realized that he was too agitated and was about to apologize. The woman with the retainer knight badge said, "The sarcoma on the neck of your Iron Bone Iguana is the prototype of a newborn head. Teacher tested the sarcoma and found that the element of the sarcoma is different from the one in the body. It's fire element. If this sarcoma develops into a head, it can turn the Iron Bone Iguana from an earth element fey into an earth fire element fey. You're very lucky. After the head grows, the Iron Bone Iguana will directly become a powerful defense-type fey." When the man heard this, his face immediately revealed an ecstatic expression. However, he was a little confused. Why didn't Master Duan Li tell him about the tumor? Before the man could rejoice for a while,
The woman with the 4-star retainer crest suddenly changed the topic. However, if your iron bone iguana wants to develop its head tumor into a head, it needs the elemental pearls produced by the fire attribute scorching elemental shellfish induced to mutate. The man's heart sank when he heard that. A gold-ranked dragon's mouth orchid could be saved up for a few years by working hard and scrimping. However, the elemental pearls produced by the elemental shellfish were his. Although his spirit chi professional was at A rank and his fae was a fantasy breed, he could barely be called a king-class expert. However, many non-king-class experts couldn't even defeat it. How could he dream of such an existence? The woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest said very seriously. The elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish are divided into many grades according to the purity of the elements contained in them. Teacher said that the elemental pearls that are useful for your iron bone iguana must be the highest heavenly maiden grade. The elemental energy contained in the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls is 95% to 100% pure. Even my teacher can't get such heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. What's more, if you want your iron bone iguana to grow a second head, you need a total of 5 heavenly maiden grade pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish that contain fire elemental energy. The man's hope that had just been born was immediately shattered. He couldn't even afford to ask Master Duan Li to enhance a fae once, let alone the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls that even Master Duan Li couldn't get. The woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest looked at the man's expression and continued speaking. Teacher originally didn't intend to tell you this. I'm telling you because without the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls for its transformation, this iron bone iguana's growth is already the limit. Seeking recommendation votes. Monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 4:11. The woman wearing the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest didn't care about the bitterness on the man's face. She just continued to say what she felt she should say. Continuing to nurture this iron bone iguana will only be a waste of spiritual ingredients, which is equivalent to wasting your own potential. You might as well pour the resources to nurture this iron bone iguana into your other phase. The bitterness on the man's face became even stronger. He only had the iron bone iguana as his main fae. He had comprehended a total of 3 willpower runes, and one of them had been combined with the iron bone iguana to promote it into a fantasy breed. The other 2 willpower runes were flying around his spiritual energy in his spiritual spatial zone. However, even if he didn't nurture the iron bone iguana and nurtured other faes, since the resources he could earn were limited, he could only choose a bronze/flawless fae to contract at most. If he wanted to upgrade a bronze/flawless fae to legend, who knew how many years he would need to accumulate the resources? The man thanked the woman wearing the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest very seriously. Then he firmly walked toward the night. This world had always been difficult for poor families to produce noble children. From the first contracted fae at a young age, the children of the rich and powerful families had already opened a gap like a scar in the sky. Even if the poor children were lucky enough to become king-class experts, it was unknown how much blood and tears they had to pay compared to those who were born in the rich and powerful families. However, among the king-class experts who came from poor families like him would always be at the bottom. Zhou Luo had long seen through this world. Although Zhou Luo's heart was still very desperate, he was now calm. For the poor children, they always had to face troubles and despair on the way to growth. Then, they would cross the hurdles brought by troubles and despair. It seemed like a life of seeking joy in hardship, but it was also to change fate. Along the way, Zhou Luo felt that he was a hero. In Zhou Luo's opinion, there was only one kind of heroism in the world, which was to recognize the truth of life and still love it. Zhou Luo originally planned to go to the Guild Alliance to see if there were any missions suitable for him. Suddenly, Zhou Luo thought of the application he had submitted when he had seen the exchange message from the small store he followed on Star Web. In his room, Listen was thinking about how to get through 270 objects mixed with completely jade-textured wood powder every day. To open up the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's development. In purchase with no losses Star Web Store, the various group members had quoted 30 flower brocade pearls. Listen knew that most of the people in the group were big shots. After the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's online and offline spirit beast resources are sold, Bai Chenghu will use the Zheng family to shift the business direction to high-end luxury resources. I reckon the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's spiritual material resources will be sold soon. While speaking, Fei Qianqiong admired the young man sitting at the table with phoenix eyes and a mole at the corner of his eye. According to what Listen had taught him, he chatted with Bai Chenghu for an hour. Only then did Bai Chenghu's idea of shifting the development direction of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to high-end luxury resources step by step. Otherwise, with just his acting skills and without what Listen had taught him, even if he could deceive Bai Chenghu, he would definitely not be able to affect Bai Chenghu's ambitions and thoughts through clues. Listen's fingers gently tapped on the table, making beeping sounds as he quickly calculated in his mind. The investment required for high-end luxury resources isn't a small amount. If Bai Chenghu is focused on developing high-end luxury resources, then he will definitely gather resources and constantly throw out the other resources in his hands little by little. Therefore, you must help Bai Chenghu throw out the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's online and offline resources. You must do it well. Only by letting Bai Chenghu taste the sweetness can he be at ease to let you handle such things in the future. End of this chapter. Fei Qianqiong was not a superstitious person, but he couldn't help but want to find someone to do some divination for him. Was he the reincarnation of the god of misfortune? Why did he encounter so many misfortune in a single day? The circle of black shadows on the strange tiger beneath the stooped old man was clearly the embryonic form of a domain. Although it had yet to truly form a domain, it was already infinitely close. This meant that this stooped old man was a true peak king stage powerhouse. Even if Fei Qianqiong was at his peak, he wouldn't be able to block more than a few moves from a peak king. Moreover, his main Fei, the blood-toothed cricket, had been stripped of its willpower rune and had fallen from a fantasy breed. The hunchbacked old man looked at Listen with a trace of regret in his eyes. He then glanced at Fei Qianqiong and said, "What the dogs of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce think has nothing to do with me. If the dogs are disobedient, they will be obedient after some training. It's just that our Zheng family has trained our dogs very well, unlike the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, who trained their own dogs to rebel. You have to be careful. You can't tame a rebellious dog no matter how you train it." As he spoke, the hunchbacked old man, Elder Niu, who was next to young Master Zheng, was somewhat puzzled. The listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was just an empty shell. How blind was Fei Qianqiong to choose to betray the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce and help the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce? Could it be because of the news that Listen had released that the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had found the support of a major faction? If that was the case, would the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce have been suppressed so badly by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce? Does this Fei Qianqiong have a pig brain? Did he really believe it? If he told Fei Qianqiong that he could quickly comprehend the willpower rune by burying him in the ground, he wouldn't be able to do so. Would Fei Qianqiong bury himself alive and suffocate to death? When Fei Qianqiong heard the words of the stooped old man, he suddenly felt a little sad. If he had not chosen to live between life and death, he would not have used the willpower rune to swear to become Listen's servant and betray the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. He had gone through ups and downs for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce for so many years. He had both merits and hard work. In terms of contribution and hard work, his contribution and hard work were definitely above Bai Chengxiong's. But he had to suffer Bai Chenghu's suspicions at every turn, and he had to endure Bai Chengxiong's impetuous bare brain. In the end, in the eyes of the Zheng family, he was just a dog of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. This showed Bai Chenghu and Bai Chengxiong's attitude towards him when facing the Zheng family. At that moment, Fei Qianqiong heard Listen say, Chapter 413. Fei Qianqiong could not help but sigh in his heart. The blood-toothed cricket had always been his main Fei. However, it had been deprived of its willpower rune and turned from a Fantasy 3 Fei into an ordinary Fei. Even if he still had the Diamond 2/Fantasy 2 mind-controlling silkworm goo, it could not even reach 30% of its previous strength in battle. Fei Qianqiong hurriedly injected a large amount of spiritual power into the mind-controlling silkworm goo. As the mind-controlling silkworm goo injected spiritual power into Fei Qianqiong, its body quickly lit up with a reddish-gold luster. Silky and dazzling reddish-gold threads were quickly spat out of the mind-controlling silkworm goo's body. Finally, these threads were tightly entangled, forming 3 reddish-gold ribbons covered with dark red spots. Mind-controlling silkworm goo, block in front of me with 1 heart wall ribbon and 2 in front of Listen. When the mind-controlling silkworm goo heard its master's words, it was obviously a little hesitant. It did not understand why its contractor wanted to protect a member of the group of humans who had attacked it and the blood-toothed cricket during the day. However, the mind-controlling silkworm Gu was absolutely obedient to Fei Qianqiong in battle. Therefore, the mind-controlling silkworm Gu didn't hesitate at all to block in front of Listen with 2 heart wall ribbons and 1 in front of Fei Qianqiong. At that moment, the dark energy ripples had already rushed over. This dark energy ripples directly sent Fei Qianqiong and Listen flying. However, due to the mind-controlling silkworm Gu's heart wall ribbon's double protection, Listen felt the blood in his body surge. However, because Fei Qianqiong lacked a layer of heart wall ribbon's protection, he was eroded by this dark energy ripples. Dark red blood flowed out of Fei Qianqiong's nose and dyed his white beard. Fei Qianqiong stood up and whispered to Listen, "I'm going to risk my life. I'm prepared to risk my life. I don't dare to guarantee how long I can stall for. Summon your Fei and break the wall to escape." When Listen heard Fei Qianqiong's words, he had the same deep look as Fei Qianqiong had looked at him before. Listen also looked at Fei Qianqiong deeply. However, Listen did not plan to run. The king-class expert opposite Fei Qianqiong was obviously stronger than him. The stooped old Fei's casual roar produced the dark energy ripples, and Fei Qianqiong found it difficult to deal with it. Even if he ran, how would he be able to escape? The appearance of this stooped old man was different from the appearance of Fei Qianqiong. Fei Qianqiong had been discovered by the mother of bloodbath, and he had shown up in anger because of its words. However, this old man had taken the initiative to appear after hearing his conversation with Fei Qianqiong. The reason this old man represented the Zhang clan and appeared here was probably to take his life. From the moment you entered this house, I saw you being infinitely rampant. I arrived before you, yet you asked me who I was. I should be the one asking you. Fei Qianqiong swallowed his saliva with difficulty. What exactly was the background of the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's backer, that youth wearing a strange mask? This myth-breed Fei was obviously not the one that had been with the youth wearing a strange mask during the day. He was actually lucky enough to see 2 suzerain/myth-breed Feis on the same day. Since when were suzerain/myth-breed Feis so worthless? The hunchbacked old man, Elder Niu, didn't know why the pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower spinning beautifully in mid-air didn't reveal the slightest aura. However, the existence of this pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower made his heart feel as though it was being pressed by 1,000 jacks. Elder Niu shouted in a deep voice. "Sir, the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is something that my Zheng family is determined to obtain. Listen is also someone that my Zheng family wants to kill tonight." Just as Elder Niu said this, that unusually gentle voice was tainted with a trace of coldness. Can't I protect the person that the Zheng family wants to kill when it's something that the Zheng family is determined to obtain? As soon as this unusually gentle voice fell, the pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower spinning gracefully in mid-air suddenly blossomed with a gorgeous pink-colored brilliance. Countless pink-purple petals poured out of the embroidered ball-shaped flower. The pink-purple petals danced in mid-air. The petals were as light as a rainbow-colored dress and as graceful as a graceful swan. Amidst the elegant dance, it startled the deep midsummer. At that moment, a gentle shout echoed. Midsummer Cage. Second update, seeking monthly votes, recommendation votes, hee. If you're reading a book, please post this chapter, prove that I'm not writing alone, woo woo. End of this chapter. Chapter 4:15. The moment the gentle voice rang out, a cold glint flashed across the sky. The pinkish-purple petals tore this dark domain into pieces like the dawn that banished the darkness. Immediately after, Elder Niu discovered that these pinkish-purple petals combined with each other. They were like shackles that imprisoned him, his contracted dark-eyed scorpion tiger, and the dark spirit-eye tadpole. Under the imprisonment of these petals, his body could not move. At the same time, he could no longer mobilize the spirit chi in his body. He was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered without the ability to resist. The abnormally gentle voice that appeared out of thin air had a calm tone, but the words it said seemed to be mocking. Compared to the spiritual power imprisonment you were so proud of just now, do you see my means in your eyes? Amidst the sprinkling of pink-purple petals, a graceful figure appeared beside Listen. The graceful figure raised her hand and shook the bracelet hanging on her wrist. There were many pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped flowers on this bracelet, which let out crisp colliding sounds as it shook. The pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped flowers that were rotating in the air shrank as if they had found a home and flew toward the woman's wrist. They turned into a small pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped pendant like the other pendants. The hunchbacked old man, Elder Nyo, could not help but exclaim. There was an indescribable shock in his aged voice. Fey martial materialization. You're actually at myth 3. Endless Summer ignored Elder Nyo's exclamation and snapped her fingers. Enlightenment law. Willpower examination. As soon as Endless Summer's voice fell, Elder Nyo felt a pain in his spiritual spatial zone as if he had been pierced by a sharp thorn. After this pain, he recovered to his original state. Elder Nyo found that he did not have any abnormalities. At that moment, Endless Summer frowned slightly and said, I heard you coming and going like a dog. I heard you running around like a dog, but it turns out you're just a servant. How ironic. Elder Nyo's face turned red, but before he could speak, Endless Summer said, Humans are valued. Everyone should respect themselves. All living things can be called humans. If you see others as dogs, then you are the real dog. Since you've already sworn with the willpower rune, there's really no use in keeping you. Elder Nyo did not expect that the news that Listen had released about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce having a backer would actually be true. The backer behind the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was definitely not weak. Otherwise, with his strength at the peak of the king stage, he wouldn't have fallen into a dead end just to complete young Master Zheng's mission. Old Nyo said urgently. I swear by the willpower rune that I am loyal to the patriarch of the Zheng family's third lineage, the Zheng family's third lineage. Before Elder Nyo could finish speaking, Endless Summer snapped her fingers again. I hate dark-type Fays the most. Dark-type Fays should die. Especially this kind of black tiger that likes to dig out the heart when it eats. Enlightenment rune, mind still. The moment Endless Summer said that her mind was still, whether it was Elder Nyo, the dark-eyed scorpion tiger, or the dark spirit-eye tadpole, they all fell into a state of deathly stillness. It was as if he had entered an endless slumber. Immediately after, Endless Xiaosu clenched her fist and yelled. Bloom. Shooting Spear of Summer. The midsummer cage that had previously trapped Elder Nyo, the dark-eyed scorpion tiger, and the dark spirit-eye tadpole had turned into 3 spears made of pinkish-purple petals in the blink of an eye. The moment the spear condensed, it pierced through his heart. The Pinnacle King-class expert, Elder Nyo, the Diamond X/Fantasy 4 dark-eyed scorpion tiger, and the Diamond 8/Fantasy 3 dark spirit-eye tadpole. Just like that, they died from these 3 shooting spears of summer made of pinkish-purple petals without any struggle in their long slumber. Fei Qianqiong was completely subdued at this moment, and he felt a lot of sweat in his palms. His entire palms were completely drenched. Bai Chenghu had previously hinted for him to swear with the willpower rune to become the Iron Arm Chamber of Commerce's guardian. Although there were no restrictions on becoming the Iron Arm Chamber of Commerce's guardian, he would not be like a servant, where his life and death were in the hands of others. However, the loyalty contract issued by the willpower rune was different from the oath of exchange. The loyalty oath could only be issued once in a lifetime. Choosing to become a guardian and be loyal to a faction or a person was a lifelong matter. Even if the person being protected died or the faction was destroyed. The loyalty oath could not be issued a second time in a lifetime. Fei Qianqiong was now extremely glad that he had not issued the loyalty oath to the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce under Bai Chenghu's hint. If he had really issued the loyalty oath to the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, then he would probably be a dead man during the day. The hunchbacked old man in front of him was an example. Endless Summer shook the pink-purple metal bell hanging on her bracelet. The dark-eyed scorpion tigers and dark spirit-eye tadpoles' corpses were all stored in the pink-purple bell-shaped diamond face storage box by Endless Summer. Endless Summer nodded with satisfaction. These 2 diamond/fantasy breed fays had been killed by Summer Solstice's spear in their slumber, so they could really preserve their integrity to the greatest extent. Listen hurriedly bowed to Endless Summer to show that he dared to take it. Thank you, Senior, for saving me. Endless Summer turned her head, looked at Listen and said gently, Young Master arranged for me to stay here for this period of time. Young Master arranged for me to stay here for this period of time. Don't worry and boldly develop according to your plan. Upon hearing that, Listen immediately stopped worrying about his future safety. Since the Zhang family had sent a Pinnacle King-class expert to kill him, it was equivalent to saying that the Zhang family had the intention to kill him. As long as he was not dead, the Zhang family would not be able to get what they wanted from him.
Then the danger he would face in the future would never end. Lin's peace of mind was different. Fei Qianqiong could not help but reveal an ecstatic expression on his face. With a suzerain/Myth 3 expert that could perform body weaponization, his safety could be considered guaranteed. Fei Qianqiong was simply afraid of death. This feeling of having to experience life and death twice a day. Fei Qianqiong suddenly felt that fighting and killing among spirit chi professionals is simply too boring. Acting is still more interesting. Endless Summer looked at Fei Qianqiong with a trace of approval in her eyes. With a flip of her hand, a willpower containing blood was injected into the blood-toothed cricket's body. When Fei Qianqiong felt this blood willpower, his body could not help but tremble. At that moment, Fei Qianqiong heard an unusually gentle voice beside his ear. "You did well just now. Little Sister Blood said to let me return your blood poison willpower depending on the situation. I'm giving it to you now." Fei Qianqiong was so excited that he was incoherent and almost choked. Fei Qianqiong did not feel anything when the blood-toothed cricket was a fantasy breed. But when the blood-toothed cricket fell from a fantasy breed, Fei Qianqiong felt how desperate the feeling of powerlessness was. Now that he had regained the blood poison willpower, even though the blood-toothed cricket needed some time to nourish it before it could return to its previous state of complete victory. However, if it weren't for the blood poison's willpower that had been lost and regained, Fei Qianqiong was really not sure if he could comprehend another willpower rune suitable for the blood-toothed cricket to fuse with in this life. Third update, seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 4:16. Indigo Azure City was surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, and it just so happened that the wind was blowing today. The waves hit the reefs on the shore and made the sound of rolling waves. The people who lived on the shore of Indigo Azure City were used to this sound. When he fell asleep with this sound, he slept even more soundly. In a luxuriously decorated mansion in the center of Indigo Azure City, a middle-aged man with a sinister look in his eyes said enthusiastically, "Second young master, do you like my chess pieces carved from jade-textured ebony and jade-textured white sandalwood? If it's to your liking, I'll have someone send it to you when second young master returns." The youth that was addressed as second young master had a skinny body and was wearing the Creation Master Association's standard robe. He was using his finger to count the rows of books on the bookshelf. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, he waved his hand without turning his head. "I never place jade-textured black and white chess pieces in my study. Even if I do, I only place completely jade-textured black and white chess pieces. Speaking of completely jade-textured black and white chess pieces, I have 2 pots. Third uncle, if you like it, I'll have someone bring you a pot so you can broaden your horizons." The words of the youth, who was wearing a Creation Master's robe and addressed as second young master, caused the middle-aged man's enthusiastic smile to freeze. It was extremely awkward. Just as he was about to speak, the second young master, who was wearing a Creation Master robe, turned around and spoke. "Third uncle, your 3 bloodlines have never dared to touch the coastal resources because you're afraid of being targeted by the Qiu and Wei families. At the same time, you're also afraid that the 1st, 2nd, and 4th bloodlines will secretly cause trouble. I, Zhang Kaiyuan, am standing up for third uncle in the main house, but you won't say a word about how much of the coastal resources are going to be given to me. You're only taking a pot of jade-textured black and white chess pieces as a sign of sincerity. Aren't you looking down on me, Zhang Kaiyuan?" The sinister-eyed middle-aged man looked even more embarrassed as he hurriedly said, "Since second young master is willing to stand up for the 3rd bloodline in the main family, how can our 3rd bloodline be lacking in resources for second young master? I wonder what second young master thinks about our 3rd lineage giving 30% of the profits from the offshore coastal resources to second young master." The youth who was addressed as second young master waved his hand and summoned a small marten with a black and white tail. As soon as the sable with 1 black and 1 white tail was summoned, it saw the pot of black and white chess pieces made of jade-textured ebony and jade-textured white sandalwood. It immediately became lively and looked at its master with its watery eyes. The second young master looked at his contracted little marten with a gentle look on his face. "Go, Sin Luo. Eat more." With its master's permission, the little marten with 1 black and 1 white tail scurried into the pot containing the black and white chess pieces. He gnawed on the chess pieces in the pot with a caw-caw-caw sound. The young man who was addressed as second young master looked up and gently stroked a strand of sable fur off his sleeve. He looked up at the sinister-looking middle-aged man and said, Third uncle. My Yang myriad mink is hungry. If this little thing wants to eat, I can't control it.
I believe third uncle won't lower himself to the same level as this little thing.
The sinister-looking middle-aged man hurriedly smiled apologetically.
It is this pot of chess pieces fortune that second young master's Fae likes to eat. The young man who was addressed as second young master seemed to have completely forgotten that he was the one who had asked the Yang myriad mink to eat more.
The second young master seemed to be a little sleepy. He rubbed his temples and yawned.
I want 50%. Without giving the sinister-looking middle-aged man a chance, the young man who was addressed as second young master spoke again.
The Radiance Creation Master Youth Tournament is starting next year. I'm tight on money. 50%. If third uncle isn't willing, the first, second, and fourth lineages should be very willing.
Upon hearing that, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's expression froze and he quickly replied.
Second young master, why don't we have a good talk again?
The young man who was addressed as second young master chuckled and said, Little Senluo, let's go.
Little Senro, let's go. We shouldn't eat these chess pieces.
The sinister-looking middle-aged man's face immediately turned pale, and he spoke in a panic.
Second young master, 50% it is.
The pitiful little Martin, who was obviously not full yet, yawned again after being picked up by the young man who was addressed as second young master.
I'm sleepy.
Third uncle, why don't you come to my residence tomorrow and bring your most sincere regards? After the young man who was addressed as second young master left, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's face immediately turned gloomy. He sat on the chair for a long time without saying a word.
His fists clenched tighter and tighter. At that moment, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's expression suddenly became astonished. Then it was shock and worry. He immediately picked up his cell phone and dialed a number. The phone rang twice before it was picked up.
When the sinister-looking middle-aged man heard the normal voice on the other end of the phone that seemed to have a hint of joy, the worry in his heart dissipated a lot.
But immediately after, anger rushed up, and he forcefully suppressed his emotions.
Where's Elder Nyo?
Chapter 417.
Lin Yuan frowned and looked at the reply on the letter. Freezing cold. I'll be there at 10 o'clock.
I need to see the bronze/epic lizard species Fae that I mentioned before. I also have some requests that I need to say in advance. Freezing Cold was one of the 2 King-class experts who had 2 main Faes when Lin Yuan had issued the trade message. Freezing Cold had 3 Spirit Chi runes and 2 main Faes. It was considered a pretty good set of equipment for King-class experts. Therefore, when Lin Yuan had seen him ask if there was a bronze/epic lizard species Fae on his side, he had immediately enhanced one. Looking at the personal information sent by Freezing Cold, one of Freezing Cold's 2 contracted Faes was a Diamond 3/Fantasy 2 barb-toothed Terra Lizard. The other was a Diamond Eye/Fantasy 2 saber-toothed Salamander. In terms of raw strength, Freezing Cold was inferior to Fae Chenqiong. However, the Diamond Eye/Fantasy 2 saber-toothed Salamander had completed the transition from a lizard species Fae to a dragon species Fae and had great potential. Lin Yuan had taken a fancy to Freezing Cold's potential. Moreover, Lin Yuan really did not have any King-class experts that he could use now. That was why he had prepared Freezing Cold's needs in advance. Otherwise, given Freezing Cold's strength, he was really not qualified to make such a request. It was just like when the Lightning Sparrow King's Pinnacle King-class expert squad wanted to get a bronze/epic Fae. They also needed to integrate resources and put in a lot of effort. As the saying went, be courteous to the wise. Since Lin Yuan was going to implement the white-clothed followers plan, he would not be stingy with resources for capable people. However, the implementation of the white-clothed followers plan was not to raise a boss. Lin Yuan would not be stingy with resources for the white-clothed followers, but the premise was that he needed to have absolute control. Lin Yuan had already drawn a question mark in his heart about this King-class expert called Freezing Cold. The white-clothed followers plan was to form a sword that could sweep across Sky City. The most important thing for a sharp weapon like a sword was obedience. Otherwise, no matter how sharp the sword was, it would hurt itself if it was disobedient. However, Lin Yuan did not directly exclude Freezing Cold. He intended to take a look in person before making a decision. It was still early, and he had nothing to do anyway, so he called his purchase with No Lost Star Web Fan Club. He was prepared to look through the chat history of his purchase with No Lost Stores Fan Club. After flipping through the records, he realized that an entire night had passed. The people in the group were still enthusiastically discussing the auction of the 30 flower brocade pearls. These 30 flower brocade pearls were treated as group welfare and were publicly auctioned in the group. Therefore, every member's bid would be seen by all the members in the group. Every time someone posted a new price, they would be praised by the others in the group and called them Big Boss. Then, after a period of time, someone else would raise the price. In addition, Braised Egghead Stream in the Clouds, Violent Tempered Daughter, Buddha Tempered and Zhou Jusin joined in. Lin Yuan realized that the auction of the 30 flower brocade pearls, which was treated as group welfare, seemed to have become a ranking competition between the bigwigs in the group. Lin Yuan saw that the highest bidder was a Class 4 Creation Master. The Class 4 Creation Master had already raised the price to a source-type item, 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore, and 70 mid-grade strange flames. Lin Yuan could not help but secretly click his tongue when he saw this price. A source-type item was a lot more precious than the flower brocade pearls. In other words, it was very difficult to exchange the flower brocade pearls for a source-type item. But now, this Class 4 Creation Master was willing to take out a source-type item to exchange for the flower brocade pearls. This could really reflect the Creation Master's consistent wealth. They would not consider the price when facing the things they wanted. The gold-grade spirit material, piercing aluminum, was an extremely dangerous spirit material. It could hurt people if placed there. The bristly aluminum ore would constantly release sharp metal sword auras. Everything around the piercing aluminum ore would be attacked by the metal sword rays indiscriminately. After injecting spiritual power into it, the metal sword rays released by the piercing aluminum ore would become sharper, more powerful, and the range would also expand. Previously, Lin Yuan had wanted to choose to fuse the gold-piercing aluminum ore into the source sand. However, after weighing the pros and cons, Lin Yuan still chose the day and night spirit silver. At that time, it was more important for Lin Yuan to improve his defense than to enhance his offensive ability. The gold-piercing aluminum ore was even rarer than the day and night spirit silver. The last time it had appeared in the Rare Life Form Pavilion was 8 months ago. After looking through the chat records for a while, Lin Yuan found that the Class 4 Creation Master's price had been bid by someone else. Lin Yuan was very interested in the 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum Oregon. Lin Yuan could not help but think that even if this Class 4 Creation Master could not complete the final bid, if he wanted to take out the flower brocade pearls to exchange with this Class 4 Creation Master for the 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore, this Class 4 Creation Master should be willing to do so. Lin Yuan could already feel the huge benefits of the network formed by the purchase with No Lost Stores fan club members in his collection of spiritual ingredients. After feeling this huge benefit, Lin Yuan dispelled the idea of trading these flower brocade pearls with other factions. Through this group welfare auction, Lin Yuan understood the terrifying purchasing power of these big shots in his group. There was still half a day before the end of the group welfare auction. But now, the auction price of these 30 flower brocade pearls was already much higher than the market price. Therefore, the saved flower brocade pearls were put outside for trading. It was better to auction them in the group welfare mode. This was also the same as strengthening the tenacity and flexibility of the relationship network in the group. As Lin Yuan looked at the 10 flower brocade pearls on display in his store, he could already imagine what would happen after tonight's exhibition. He could already imagine that after tonight's exhibition, these 10 flower brocade pearls would definitely set off a bloody storm. Lin Yuan went to check the price of the mid-grade strange flame and found that it had risen a lot compared to before. Lin Yuan blinked and could not help but wonder if he had pried up the price of the mid-grade strange flame spiritual ingredient. Lin Yuan logged onto the Starweb forum and searched for the welfare of his purchase with No Lost Stores fan club. He wanted to see if it had spread out as he had imagined. As a result, Lin Yuan was embarrassed. The welfare of his Starweb Stores fan club had spread out. However, almost half of the posts that Lin Yuan checked were made by lifestyle class spirit chi professionals scolding him in groups. Second update, end of this chapter. Chapter 4:18. In the Radiance Federation, it was those lifestyle class spirit chi professionals who needed the strange flames the most. These lifestyle class spirit chi professionals criticized the purchase with No Lost Stores owner for using blind barter to purchase mid-grade strange flames. As a result, the price of mid-grade strange flames had risen in the market,
severely affecting the daily consumption of lifestyle class spirit chi professionals. These lifestyle class spirit chi professionals' accusations made Lin Yuan feel aggrieved. He had only collected more than 200 mid-level strange flames so far. How big of an impact could they have? Why do these lifestyle class spirit chi professionals hate me so much? What he didn't know was that some factions and creation masters wanted to make deals with him in the future in exchange for the flower brocade pearls. He had already secretly hoarded quite a number of mid-level strange flames. Of course, there were also some forces that did not need the flower brocade pearls. They just wanted to take advantage of the limelight and absorb the resources of mid-grade strange flames that were not abundant in the market. Then, he would raise the price of the mid-level strange flame and take the opportunity to make a killing. He looked at the time, logged out of Star Web, and went downstairs to find Lu Jie. During the time Hu Quan had been promoted to a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Lin Yuan had already told him about the layout of his private faction territory on Star Web. Hu Quan was also working overtime according to Lin Yuan's requirements. He knew that he would immediately get busy after his faction announced its functions on Star Web and started to send out fate letters. Moreover, after the new year, when he established the space tunnel connecting to the Divinewood Federation, he still had to take care of the development of the Divinewood Federation. Naturally, he did not have the energy to manage these white-clothed followers. Lu Jie was his retainer knight, so Lu Jie was the most suitable person to control these white-clothed followers. As soon as Lin Yuan went downstairs, he saw Lu Jie walking out of the training room. When Lu Jie saw Lin Yuan, he immediately walked over excitedly and said, "Brother Lin, I'm here." Lin Yuan, my insect queen's bayonet beetle genetic model has evolved. The bayonet beetle's genetic model should now be renamed to flesh-mincing blade insect. After saying that, Lu Jie circulated his spiritual energy in front of Lin Yuan and summoned the insect queen that was half the size of a palm. When Lu Jie first summoned the insect queen, it looked like it was on the brink of death. However, as the purple flesh cocoon squirmed, a small head popped out. Seeing Lu Jie, the little girl was pleasantly surprised. A petite figure flew out of the purple flesh cocoon and hugged Lu Jie's neck. Only now did Lin Yuan know that the insect queen's true body was actually a fairy source-type lifeform after recovering from its near-death state. Fairy source-type lifeforms referred to non-animal, plant, or item source-type lifeforms. Most fairy source-type lifeforms had humanoid appearances. Lu Jie's insect queen had been hugging Lu Jie's neck ever since it came out. She looked very shy and very dependent on Lu Jie. Lu Jie lovingly rubbed his cheek against the insect queen. At that moment, a phrase suddenly flashed in Lin Yuan's mind. Deep father-daughter love. How was Lu Jie raising a source-type lifeform? He was practically raising a daughter. Lu Jie said to the petite insect queen, "Pian, produce a flesh-mincing blade insect." As soon as Lu Jie finished speaking, Lu Jie's fairy-like little insect queen turned into a streak of purple light and returned to the purple flesh cocoon. Immediately after, the purple flesh cocoon landed on the ground and immediately turned into a zerg base. Its body expanded to over 3 meters, and there were many sac-like tubes that were unique to insect species phase. The moment the insect queen transformed, a beetle with an angular shell with 8 sharp long legs was produced by this huge zerg base and appeared in front of Lin Yuan. After carefully examining the flesh-mincing beetle produced by Lu Jie's insect queen, Lin Yuan was quite surprised. This source-type cocoon of evolution was actually so powerful. It allowed the bayonet beetle, an insect species Fey with a relatively simple genetic model, to be so greatly strengthened. The bayonet beetle's attack method was to use the sharp horns on its head to stab. At the same time, it used its 8 legs to assist in the attack. After the bayonet beetle had been strengthened by the cocoon of evolution, the flesh-mincing beetle had weakened the sharp horns on its head. Although the sharp horns on its head had been weakened, each side of the prismatic carapace on its body was very sharp and played the same role as the sharp horns. The 8 sharp bone scraper-like legs could quickly cut the phase fur and mash the flesh into meat paste as they moved quickly. Although the flesh-mincing blade insects and bayonet beetles' attack methods had not changed. One flesh-mincing blade insect's strength could completely single-handedly fight 3 bayonet beetles of the same size. This was the process of Lu Jie's insect C going from a qualitative to a quantitative change. Coupled with the insect queen's exclusive skills, insect swarm frenzy and explosive recovery, the insect queen's attacks were extremely powerful. Lu Jie had only buffed one of his skills, yet his strength had increased by at least an entire level.
Lin Yuan was very happy about Lu Jie's increase in strength. Congratulations, Brother Lu. Your insect sea has taken on a new look. Lin Yuan could feel that Lu Jie was clearly more confident than before. Now that the agreed time with the two king-class experts had arrived, Lin Yuan decided to say, "Let's go. Big Brother Lu, let's log into Star Web and meet at the entrance of a store called Purchase with No Loss." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie was a little puzzled. Was Lin Yuan asking him to go shopping with him? Lu Jie had heard about the popularity of the Purchase with No Loss store even though he did not close the forum. It was said that it was a boutique shop with a mysterious boss that only sold exquisite items. Although Lu Jie was puzzled, he naturally would not refuse Lin Yuan's words. "All right, I'll return to my room and log into the Star Web now." Hu Quan no longer stayed up late recently, so he used the daytime to create various objects. When he saw that Lin Yuan was pulling Lu Jie to Star Web for something, he said, "Let's go. When the two of you go out, put on the masks I made for you. Boys have to protect themselves when they go out." When Lin Yuan heard Hu Quan's words, he felt that Uncle Hu Quan was a little strange, as though there was an unknown story behind him. Why do boys have to protect themselves? Weren't the ones who needed to protect themselves all girls? Lu Jie could not help but ask when Hu Quan mentioned the oddly shaped but very light mask. "Uncle Hu, aren't the masks you made only worn when we're out representing our forces? Isn't it strange to wear it in a Star Web store?" Before Hu Quan could speak, Lin Yuan smiled brightly at Lu Jie, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. "Brother Lu, we really have to wear it this time." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie immediately became solemn. He knew that Lin Yuan was looking for him to go to Star Web to do something related to his faction. Suddenly, Lu Jie thought of the rumors on Star Web, saying that the owner of the Purchase with No Loss store was a young man. Lu Jie could not help but have some doubts. Could this young boss be Lin Yuan? Looking for recommendation votes. Monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 419. Lu Jie returned to his room one step ahead of Lin Yuan. Just as Lin Yuan was about to return to his room, he heard Hu Quan's voice. "I really don't know how you came up with so many ideas. Other people are afraid of wasting this completely jade-like gold-rimmed Nanmu. But you asked me to extract the crystallized golden threads from the gold-threaded Nanmu for you, bit by bit." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan scratched the back of his head and asked Hu Quan, "Uncle Hu, is it difficult to extract the golden threads from the completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmu?" Hu Quan chuckled and said, "If I didn't have this fantasy breed wood weaving house centipede, I wouldn't have been able to deal with these crystallized golden threads. Even if I could separate these crystallized golden threads from these completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmu, I wouldn't be able to separate them so completely like this. However, the number of completely jade-textured gold-rimmed Nanmu you gave me is really quite a lot. It will take at least 13 to 14 days to extract all the crystallized golden threads." At this point, Hu Quan rolled his eyes and said with a grin, "Why don't you tell Wen Yu to let me stay up late during this period? Also, don't let Lu Jie make pork liver soup for me while I stay up late." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan replied without thinking, "Don't worry, Uncle Hu. You can take care of it during the day. Even if I tell Wen Yu about you staying up late, it won't count." Lin Yuan was also against Hu Quan staying up all night. Compared to Hu Quan's creativity as a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Lin Yuan hoped that Hu Quan could create in a healthy state. Instead of rushing for work, staying up all day and affecting his health, he had never treated Hu Quan as a tool and wanted to squeeze Hu Quan's labor at any time. Hu Quan's image was pieced together on the wall behind him. Hu Quan was already a part of the manor. Seeing that his plan didn't work, Hu Quan said angrily, "All right, I'm going to get busy. Go back to your room and don't let Lu Jie wait for too long." Lin Yuan finally knew what it meant to throw it away after using it. No, it should be thrown away if it's useless. What a jerk. When he logged on to Star Web this time, he put on the mask with the majestic sky city pattern that Hu Quan had created with completely jade-textured silk threads. When he arrived at the entrance of the Purchase with No Loss store, he happened to see an acquaintance. When he saw the violent-tempered woman at the entrance of his store, he greeted her. The violent-tempered woman only recognized Lin Yuan when he took the initiative to greet her.
It had to be said that Lin Yuan looked rather mature wearing the mask that Xueqi had created, which only revealed his mouth and chin. The violent-tempered woman hurriedly said when she saw Lin Yuan. "Sir, why did the store stop selling silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish?" Lin Yuan replied with a smile. "It only stopped yesterday. I don't know when it will stop. If you need silver rank usnias, you can send me a message directly." He cherished the people he had known when he was weak. The violent-tempered woman quickly waved her hand and said, "Sir, there's no need to trouble you. I've already gained so many benefits from your fan club." The violent-tempered woman was very grateful to Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan had helped her daughter heal her phase-damaged roots, he had also improved her phase quality. He had also conveniently improved his daughter's phase quality. This was simply a huge favor. During this time, the violent-tempered woman had gotten to know many big shots in Lin Yuan's purchase with No Lost Stores fan club. Just by listening to the news from these big shots, the violent-tempered woman had carried out a few transactions of spiritual materials. This allowed the violent-tempered woman to earn a lot of radiance dollars. The radiance dollars the violent-tempered woman earned in this month was more than what she usually earned in 2 years of hard work in the Guild Alliance. Lin Yuan wanted to invite the violent-tempered woman into the store for a while. Just as he was about to invite the violent-tempered woman, she said, "Sir, please go ahead. My roasted chicken is especially delicious. I'll send you a roasted chicken to touch later." After the violent-tempered woman left Lin Yuan's purchase with No Lost Store, as usual, she chatted in the purchase with No Lost Store's fan club. During her daily chatting, the violent-tempered woman accidentally spilled the beans. Violent-tempered woman, "I saw the group owner at the entrance of the Star Web store. He seems to be going into the store to do something." The violent-tempered woman's message in the group made the eyes of many big shots light up. The group owner had always been mysterious. After they entered the group, they only saw the group owner auction 30 flower brocade pearls as a group welfare. After that, the group leader didn't say anything else. The group owner was usually uncontactable. This was because the mysterious group owner was so aloof that he did not reply to any messages at all. Now that they heard that the group owner had appeared in the store, many of the big shots in the group who saw the violent-tempered woman's message immediately took action. Lin Yuan had only stood at the entrance for a few minutes when he saw Lu Jie walking over wearing a mask made by Xueqi. Lu Jie usually wore the Radiance Sacred Hall's 100 Successor battle armor on Star Web for the Radiance 100 sequence members. However, Xueqi had changed the 100 Successor battle armor today, and put on a reddish-gold half-body armor. Coupled with Lu Jie's mask, which only revealed his knife-like chin, he looked exceptionally heroic. When Lu Jie saw Lin Yuan, he was standing at the entrance of the store and opening the door of the originally closed Star Web store. Upon seeing this, Lu Jie knew that he had really guessed correctly. Lin Yuan was really the mysterious purchase with No Lost Store's owner. After Lin Yuan and Lu Jie met, they entered the purchase with No Lost Store. Lin Yuan's purchase with No Lost Store did not have any shelves inside. Since Lin Yuan had recently removed the silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish, the purchase with No Lost Store's interior was empty. In addition, when Lin Yuan opened the store, the standard long table that Star Web had given him was still in the store. This made the purchase with No Lost Star Web store look more like a restaurant with only one table than a fey and spiritual ingredient store. Lin Yuan had asked Lu Jie to come to the store half an hour earlier, which was 9:30 am. However, less than 5 minutes after Lin Yuan and Lu Jie sat down, they saw a thin man walk in. Lin Yuan asked the thin man, "Is it Zhou Luo?" "Is it Zhou Luo?" His appearance had been included in the personal information that the 2 King-class experts had sent him. Lin Yuan had already recognized that Zhou Luo was the King-class expert who had 3 willpower runes but had an extremely weak main fey. Second update, button fever, viral cold, New Year's Day, crying, asking for tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 420. When Zhou Luo heard the young man with the strange mask call out his name, he finally confirmed that he had not come to the wrong place. Zhou Luo looked around the store in surprise. He did not dare to believe that the legendary purchase with No Lost Store did not have any phase or spiritual ingredients. There was only an ordinary table. Zhou Luo said hurriedly, "I'm Zhou Luo. May I ask if my main fey, the Iron Bone Iguana, can meet your requirements?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan casually flipped his hand and summoned a chair. This chair was the same as the one Lin Yuan was sitting on, and it had been given to him by Star Web when he had opened his store. At this moment, Zhou Luo heard a young man wearing a strange mask say, "Take a seat first. There will be another person in a while. We'll talk when everyone is here." Hearing this, Zhou Luo sat on the chair. He stealthily sized up the two masked youths sitting not far from him. Just by looking at the mask, Zhou Luo could tell that the man in the white and blue robe was obviously of a higher status than the man in the reddish-gold half-body armor. This man in a white and blue striped robe should be the purchase with no loss store's owner. At the same time, Zhou Luo was secretly depressed. His iron bone iguana was only a Platinum 9/Fantasy I existence. In terms of strength, it was hard to say who would emerge victorious if they were to fight against those Diamond 4/V Fays that weren't fantasy breeds. Did he really have a chance to fight for a future with this kind of strength? At this moment, Zhou Luo was fantasizing about getting heavenly maiden-level elemental pearls produced by 5 scorching elemental shellfish. This would allow his main Fey, the iron bone iguana, to mutate the huge sarcoma on its neck into a second head. Just as Zhou Luo was letting his imagination run wild, Lin Yuan had already set up an entrance control for his purchase with no loss store, setting it so that only freezing cold could enter for a while. The setting of access control was the privilege of the owner of a private shop on the Star Web. Of course, this was excluding stores like Lin Yuan's that did not have to worry about buyers. Other shops had the privilege to set up access control, but they might not use it even once in their lives. Time flew by, and half an hour passed quickly. Lin Yuan's brows slowly furrowed. At this time, it was already 10 o'clock. However, freezing cold did not appear at the agreed time. After another 5 minutes, just as Lin Yuan was about to disqualify freezing cold from entering the door, a tall and sturdy man walked in through the door. This burly man was freezing cold. His cold eyes scanned around the house before he walked in front of Lin Yuan and said casually, "You're the one who killed Lin Yuan. I was watching the competition video in the Star Web video library and was delayed by 5 minutes." When Lin Yuan heard freezing cold's casual tone, his brows furrowed even tighter. At that moment, Lin Yuan changed the question mark in his heart from freezing cold to an incorrect one. Freezing cold's casual attitude showed that freezing cold didn't take this meeting seriously at all. Not only did it show freezing cold's contempt for their forces, but it also showed that freezing cold was not a punctual person. Before Lin Yuan could say anything, he heard freezing cold speak again. "Your store doesn't seem to have as many good things as others have told me. I'm here to make a request. Take it out for me to see first. If you can't meet my requirements, then I won't waste my time here." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's frown eased, but his gaze was no longer on freezing cold. Lin Yuan's tone was no different from usual. "Are you here to exchange this bronze/epic Fey with your life?" Freezing cold shook his head and said, "Serve me? What kind of service? An oath of loyalty is definitely impossible, but I can complete the task according to your instructions. After completing a certain mission, I will exchange the bronze/epic lizard species Fey from you. If your mission is too difficult to complete, I can help you find more king-class elites to help you complete the mission, but you'll have to pay for it. Of course, if you're willing to give me this bronze/epic lizard species Fey first, I can reduce the reward for each mission by 10%. Just as freezing cold finished speaking, he heard a low voice. "Are you worthy of giving you the bronze/epic Fey first?" As he spoke, Lu Jie, who was wearing the reddish-gold half-body armor, stood up. According to what Lin Yuan had just told him, Lu Jie knew that the purpose of coming to the Star Web store this time was to recruit king-class experts. He wanted these king-class experts to become Sky City's white-clothed followers. In essence, Lin Yuan intended to start expanding Sky City's military force. Lin Yuan also said that he would pour bronze/epic Fey resources into the recruited white-clothed followers. It was equivalent to saying that Lin Yuan had to make a considerable investment in every white-clothed follower. Few people understood Lin Yuan's wealth better than Lu Jie, who had been by Lin Yuan's side since the beginning. However, this burly man in front of him shamelessly wanted to get the bronze/epic Fey resources first, but he was unwilling to be loyal. He was simply too greedy. If he took out the bronze/epic Fey resources, he could hire a squad of pinnacle king-class experts to go on a mission. Instead of hiring such a king-class expert who had no concept of time to do multiple missions. Clearly,
It was more worthwhile to hire a small team of peak king stage powerhouses. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Freezing Cold's face showed obvious displeasure. You're just a star web store. If I hadn't heard that your store sells any kind of bronze/epic phase, I wouldn't have been able to find you. I wouldn't think of doing odd jobs here. Compared to us, the huge axe mercenaries, your star web store is still far from being good. Lu Jie's face darkened even further. Lin Yuan wasn't angry, but he was rather speechless. He had always been used to treating other factions as leaks, and would always use the things produced in his spirit lock spatial zone to harvest them. But this time, there was actually a king-class expert who had pledged loyalty to a faction. However, he wanted to go to his purchase with no loss store to accept missions and harvest his leaks. Moreover, this Freezing Cold not only wants to cut his leaks, but also wants the middleman to earn the price difference. Speaking of the huge axe mercenaries, Lin Yuan had learned about all the major factions from Wen Yu. The axe mercenaries were not among them. Lin Yuan looked at Lu Jie and asked, "Brother Lu, have you heard of the battle axe mercenaries?" Lu Jie shook his head, but his eyes were still very gloomy as he looked at Freezing Cold. Begging for recommendation votes, monthly votes, begging for free reading of this book, Big Brother, if you really like this book, subscribe to it. End of this chapter. Chapter 421. Lin Yuan turned his head and looked at the man sitting on the chair who had come in first. Zhou Luo, have you heard of the huge axe mercenaries? Zhou Luo had always felt that he didn't have any sense of existence, but he didn't expect to be called out by this youth with a strange mask. Zhou Luo hurriedly replied, "Of course I've heard of the huge axe mercenaries. The huge axe mercenaries are a very powerful faction with 11 king-class experts. The strongest of them is said to be just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king-class." Lin Yuan nodded in response. Judging from the number and strength of king-class experts, the huge axe mercenaries should be considered a veteran rising faction. Just from the word mercenary, it was obvious that this rising faction's function was to accept hires to complete missions and harvest resources. It was considered a rising faction that relied on martial strength to survive. It was almost the new year, and it was the carnival season of the Radiance Federation's tournament. The huge axe mercenaries probably couldn't take on any missions now, so Freezing Cold, as a member, had started to do odd jobs. Lin Yuan couldn't help but feel a little playful when Zhou Luo mentioned that the strongest expert in the huge axe mercenaries was just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king class. Peak king class did not refer to a specific rank. All king class experts with Diamond 8/Fantasy 3 phase and above could be called pinnacle king class experts. Therefore, the introduction of being just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king-class experts was a little confusing. The huge axe mercenaries should be using this to show their signboard to the outside world. They were hoping to take on more missions. For a mercenary group with king-class experts like this, the competition was extremely intense. Such factions relied on strength to speak. Therefore, it was clear at a glance which faction's business was better. As soon as Zhou Luo finished speaking, he didn't expect to be immediately targeted by the burly man next to him. "A few days ago, my big brother became a pinnacle king-class expert. What do you mean by just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king-class experts?" Zhou Luo was a little speechless. "I'm not a member of the huge axe mercenaries. Who the hell would keep an eye on the latest news of the huge axe mercenaries? What does it have to do with me whether your huge axe mercenaries have a pinnacle king-class expert or not?" Lin Yuan looked at Freezing Cold, who was obviously a little angry, and said, "Since you can't give me loyalty, then I can't give you a future either. You don't need to waste your time here." When Lang Shun heard this, the expression on his face stiffened, and he immediately became unwilling. "My time isn't worth much anyway, so let it be wasted. I'm sure he's also a king-class expert you found. I'd like to see if I'm suitable and if he's not. You're the owner of this shop. You can't possibly chase people away." Zhou Luo, who was sitting on the chair, felt somewhat baffled. Why was he being targeted by this burly man again? Oh my god! This big fellow wouldn't have any improper thoughts towards me, right? Lu Jie clenched his fists and looked at Lin Yuan. His eyes conveyed the meaning of, "If you nod, I'll kick him out." Lin Yuan shook his head at Lu Jie and then said indifferently to Freezing Cold, "You can stay if you want. Your door is open. You can leave whenever you're bored." Lin Yuan thought to himself, He wouldn't chase people out of the shop. However, they would set up an entrance guard to block all the customers outside the door, not allowing them to enter. After saying that, Lin Yuan wouldn't spare a trace of energy on Freezing Cold, who was standing at the side. Since Freezing Cold couldn't become a member of the white-clothed followers, Lin Yuan no longer needed to work on him. Lin Yuan said to Zhou Luo, who was sitting on the chair, "You heard what we said just now. You heard what we said just now. If I can pour resources into you and let you grow quickly, are you willing to pledge your loyalty to me?" Zhou Luo nodded without hesitation. Zhou Luo had heard the conversation between Lin Yuan and Freezing Cold just now, so he naturally knew that offering loyalty was to swear with the willpower rune and issue an allegiance oath. Only in this way could he directly express his loyalty and let the other party pour resources into him without any scruples. Giving and receiving might not necessarily be proportional to doing things. However, without giving, there would definitely be no return. Zhou Luo still understood this principle. Given his current situation, if he could find a faction to rely on, he wouldn't have to work so hard anymore. However, Zhou Luo didn't know how many resources this masked youth in front of him would pour on him in the future. In fact, what Zhou Luo was most worried about now was not what he could get after pledging his loyalty. Instead, it was whether this masked youth in front of him would accept his allegiance. Zhou Luo really wasn't confident enough in the strength of his main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. Zhou Luo took a deep breath and said with some apprehension, "Do you think my strength can meet the requirements?" Zhou Luo knew very well that he never had the right to be picky about the faction he wanted to join. He could only quietly wait for others to choose him. Lin Yuan didn't care about the weakness of Zhou Luo's main fei. Lin Yuan remembered that Zhou Luo's main fei was a Platinum 9/Fantasy Eye defense type fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. However, what Zhou Luo had written in the information at that time was that this Platinum 9/Fantasy Eye Iron Bone Iguana's neck had mutated. The mutation at the neck would affect some of the body's movements, which would affect the Iron Bone Iguana's strength to a certain extent. Since Zhou Luo was in front of him, Lin Yuan also wanted to see what was wrong with his Iron Bone Iguana in person. If Zhou Luo's main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana, had a mutation at its neck, it would seriously affect its strength. In that case, Zhou Luo would be a burden to Lin Yuan. After all, Zhou Luo's main fei was weak to begin with. Coupled with the influence of the mutation at his neck, it would be difficult for him to obtain resources to nurture new feis. In this case, even if Lin Yuan gave Zhou Luo a bronze/epic fei, Zhou Luo would still need Lin Yuan's investment if he wanted to grow. If it was such a loss-making deal, he would not do it. Thus, Lin Yuan said, "Summon your main fei for me to see." Zhou Luo hesitated for a moment. He then took a deep breath and channeled his spiritual energy to summon his main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. The moment Zhou Luo summoned the Iron Bone Iguana, Lin Yuan's eyes were fixed on its neck. It was not that Lin Yuan was deliberately staring at the neck of Zhou Luo's main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. The sarcoma on its neck was too obvious. The sarcoma on the neck of Zhou Luo's main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. It was a quarter of the size of the Iron Bone Iguana's head. This made Lin Yuan suddenly think of a delicacy, the big potato pressure pot small potato. Second update, seeking monthly votes, recommendation votes, and full subscriptions. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.